Linda, would you call the roll, please?
Here.
He's coming.
Here.
Yes, here. So we have several items on our work session agenda this evening, actually 4. So our first one is Grand Haven's Hemlock Woolly, and I'm not even going to try to, it's Adelgia, okay. Infestation. So we're going to ask Dan to come up to the microphone and tell us about the problems that we have in our hemlock trees in our forest.
This is actually Kurt.
Oh.
Hi, Kurt.
Okay, hi, Kurt.
A prior commitment, so he asked me to come in and talk on our behalf.
Okay.
So I'm here primarily to give an introduction to the Environment and Natural Resources Committee's recommendation. We are in support of Hemlock Woolly Adelgid, or HWA control. And so I was going to present the experts on it. I'm certainly not an expert, but I do sit on the committee, and we did deliberate on it quite a bit. So one of the problems is it's here. You know, a lot of times we talk about stuff, and you know it's going to come here. We might get to, I remember emerald ash borer, you know, any minute now, and before you knew it, it was here and gone, and everything was dead. And we have other issues, but hemlocks are beautiful. One of the reasons I'm here, they rounded me up to do this presentation, is like Pat, I run a lot of times in the winter, and hemlocks are absolutely fantastic in the winter. They're my favorite tree. We have it at Mulligan's Hollow. We're going to hear tonight we have it at several places, and I think it's a serious threat. Trees grow in the shade, so that makes them unusual. They're very slow growing. It takes them hundreds of years to get to where they're a full-size tree. They can grow to be up to 600 years old or so. So in any event, if we lose them, it's going to be really hard to plant new ones and wait for them to grow, so to speak. We do have a little bit of history on it. Eagle Ottawa leather was obviously hemlocks, you know, for tanning leather. That was one of the reasons Eagle Ottawa was here. We're unique in that we have them. The Western UP has a lot. I travel a lot for work. They're not nearly as common as you'd think anymore. They're not a great tree if you're maybe a lumber person. They're a softwood, but they are very popular and they're a beautiful tree. So in any event, our recommendation, you know, is to treat. And we're very fortunate in being able to make that recommendation because the Ottawa Conservation District has provided some very good pricing. It's not often we get a chance to have the pricing we have. Obviously, we still have to find funding to do it, but if we were to use an outside consultant, it would be considerably numerous times more, and I think some of that information was provided in your packet. One of the other things is too, this is one of the only pests that we can effectively treat. We've had, like I said, the emerald ash borer, we've had oak wilt, we have beech scale, you know, there's a lot of things, but I'm a little selfish. I like the hemlock trees better, okay? So that's one thing. But also, this is something we can get in on the front end of, and we can probably control it. These other ones are tough. I mean, we've been working on oak wilt for a while. So that was also part of our recommendation. We'd like to get in and help preserve these specimens and manage this pest when we have the opportunity. So I would like to actually introduce the experts. I think everybody got the handouts that I got, and they also have a presentation.
Right.
With me today are, it's Allie Locker. She is a professor from Grand Valley State whose expertise is forest ecosystem management. And also we have Drew Rayner from the Ottawa Conservation District, and he is the Invasive Species Management Coordinator. And I believe Allie was going to talk first, so if you could come up, that would be great.
Hi there.
Might have to point it over here, Ellie.
There we
There you
go.
go.
Okay, first, I'd just like to talk a little bit about what hemlock woolly adelgid is. Because we hear people talk about it, but what exactly is it? And people a lot of times abbreviate this HWA, so we're speaking about the hemlock woolly adelgid. On the screen, you can see that we have the egg sacs, and those are the white woolly little balls that are kind of attached to the bottom of the needle. They're attached to the twig at the base of the needle. And then there's a zoomed in picture of the adult. And then there's another stage that's actually emerging right now called the crawler stage. So as the eggs hatch, the little crawlers will emerge out of them. And this is a dangerous time to be out in the woods because these crawlers are what attach to people moving around, or deer or birds or dogs, anything that can brush up against hemlocks that are maybe overlapping on trails. These crawlers can be transported to different areas, and that's how it spread. So here is a life cycle. And during the winter months, so during the cold months, starting with late October, November through mid-March, the adults are feeding. And at this stage, they will die there. They will die attached to the twig. As the adults, or as spring emerges, the crawlers start to come out, and then they actually have a second life cycle. So right now, as the crawlers emerge, some of them will mature to adults, and then they will have like another super fast life cycle in June and July. We'll have adults, eggs, crawlers, and then in summer, at the end of summer, they're dormant for a couple months. Then the adults again will attach to the twig, and they will stay there for the remainder of the winter. So these are very aggressive in terms of their reproduction. They're all females, and each female can lay hundreds of eggs, and each one of those eggs that hatches and survives is a female that can in turn lay more and more and more eggs. So I have a list of hemlock woolly adelgid vectors up there, and it's really important to understand these because we have an infection here in Grand Haven. Wind is an important vector, and unfortunately we can't control that, or we can't control wildlife directly, but we can control, or at least be educated in the human aspect of it. So hikers walking through the woods, don't transport firewood, don't bring trees in from outside quarantine areas, which Drew will talk about in a little bit. Keeping dogs on leashes so they're not running off trails and things where hemlock branches will overlap and potentially hop onto those dogs. So here is the extent of hemlock woolly adelgid. We currently have it about 75 miles along the lake shore. And the green dots indicate positive locations. You can see in Ottawa County, there's a gap there, and that doesn't mean that it's not here. It is in fact here. It's just that there weren't any sampled locations in this particular map. So I had a crew of Grand Valley students out there, starting with my forestry class last winter, looking for it, and now we're starting to populate the western part of Ottawa County with those green dots. This is the most current map that we have, and currently we've just focused our effort on Mulligan's Hollow, Duncan Woods, and the cemetery. All of those black dots, as of March 21st, indicate individual hemlock trees. The yellow dots indicate infected hemlock trees. So in Mulligan's Hollow, you can see the trail that kind of runs along the top ridge there in the middle of the map. All of those infected trees are pretty close to the trail proximity, so we think that humans are a significant vector in transmission of this. So far, we only have 3 or 4 points, I think, that are infected in Duncan Woods, and there's a couple of them on the southern part near the school and a couple on the northern part near Lake Ave. The graph on the top of the screen indicates the diameter distribution, and each time that my team has gone out to mark the location of a hemlock, we've also taken the diameter measurements. And the diameter measurement is important so that we know how much insecticide needs to be applied to an individual tree. Again, Drew will talk about that more. But you can see the diameter distribution ranges very widely. We have small trees, a lot of small trees, and then we have trees that are huge, you know, up to like 40 inches in diameter. Most of the trees are 8, 10 inches in diameter. So getting a diameter distribution like that lets us know, it lets us extrapolate the diameter distribution for the 2 parks so we can estimate the amount of insecticide that we would need for treatment. Last year, my forestry class took vegetation sampling. We measured lots of trees in Duncan Woods and Mulligan's Hollow, and we quantified the value that the ecosystem has in terms of ecosystem services. So an ecosystem service includes things like stormwater management, or intercepting water so that it doesn't create runoff or transport chemicals to the lake, or it protects the watershed, essentially. Microclimate characteristics, oxygen, carbon sequestration. Those are all examples of ecosystem services. And the U.S. Forest Service, along with a couple urban forest agencies, put a dollar value to those ecosystem services. So using their tools and their information, we estimated that on an annual basis, Duncan Woods provides over $850,000 every single year on ecosystem services. Hemlock in particular provides the most because the composition of Duncan Woods is very, very much hemlock. Hemlock is also an important part of Mulligan's Hollow. Collectively, with all of those species, Mulligan's Hollow provides over $1.5 million annually in ecosystem services. And I can give you the source if you're interested in looking at the ecological value of trees.
Cool.
I do have students continuing work in Grand Haven, and they're doing this for credit or doing this out of the kindness of their heart, or doing it just because they're here for the cause. So we're not surveying this instant, right, because classes are wrapping up and the crawlers are starting to emerge. But we have continued surveys in the cemetery, Mulligan's, and Western Duncan. We're planning on getting more point locations out in Duncan and continue looking. If there are other areas in Grand Haven that you would like surveyed, I would like to know that so I can get crew out there as well. This summer, I have a student who is concentrating her research. She got a scholarship, which is called a McNair Scholarship. She's concentrating her research in Grand Haven because they're for the cause, protecting the dune ecosystems and trying to figure out as much as we can about Hemlock woolly adelgid here so that we understand how to best treat it. And then we're going to continue our mapping projects. So, for example, I work a lot with imagery, satellite imagery and aerial imagery, and I'm working on a map that's going to help us predict the location of hemlocks. So what you have in front of you here is an example of a leaf-on image. Leaf-on means that it was taken during the summer, during the growing season, and it's red because the sensor on the camera that took this picture records visible light, which is red, green, and blue, plus an infrared reflectance. Vegetation reflects an infrared wavelength much better than visible light. So the arrow pointing there, that's a hemlock tree. This is in the corner of Duncan Woods, Mulligan's Hollow, and the cemetery. And here is a leaf-off image of hemlock. This was taken during the winter time. And through our reflectance models, I'm starting to gather positions where we can accurately predict where the hemlocks are. And this will help the survey crew go out there and find those hemlocks and be able to distinguish between the hemlocks and the pines, because hemlocks and pines are all green on a leaf-off image, but we can use that infrared reflectance value to find exactly where the hemlocks are. So that is a work in progress. We're getting super close. I tell Drew we're getting close every single time I talk to him, but we really are. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Drew now, and he's going to talk about limiting spread and some quotes he has on treatment.
All right, so like you said, I'm the West Michigan Citizen McCorn. I work down the road at the District. I serve on the coordinating committee. When I went to his house, it was from his chest to knees only. It's the only place in the trees you can find it, and these are the trees right here. They would hike on the trails, come home, walk past this tree, and that's how it spread. So it's a big, it could be a big saver if we could get out there and get some of these trees trimmed. Also some educational signage letting people know, hey, keep your dogs on the leash, because if your dog goes and runs and picks this up and goes home with you, that's how it's going to get to your house. And then kind of doing more outreach. So at the district, we try and do a lot of outreach and try and educate people on issues like this. So those are kind of the 4 main points on spread. Just kind of covering the funding that we have currently. We currently do have quite a significant amount of grant money to address HWA. The current prioritization in the plan here in the state is a north to south approach. So the majority of our hemlock resource is the UP and the northern lower. And we're trying to protect the state's resource. So we're trying to work up in Oceana County, the most northern area, and work our way back down, trying to limit the spread up north. So currently at the district, we have $500,000 with the state funding. We have a little bit of county funding, and we have a large GLRI grant from the federal government to do this work. And again, most of that work is concentrated up at the Silver Lake area. If you guys know where that's at, just south of Silver Lake is where my crew spends every day of their lives. We're going to continually be looking for grants. So if more grant opportunities open up and we're able to find funding for Ottawa County and other areas, we're obviously going to apply for those. But currently all the money that we have at the district is going up to those northern areas. For management of HWA, the most successful management tool is insecticide treatment. So unlike emerald ash borer, where by the time you knew you had it, your tree was already dead and there's really nothing you can do, HWA is one we can really do something about. Treatments are incredibly effective. They're fairly easy compared to oak wilt. Oak wilt, you're drawing trench lines and you're putting heavy equipment in, and it's a lot of money and it's a lot of planning. HWA treatments are pretty easy. It's an individual. You can see the treatment kit he's got there, just injecting chemicals straight into the tree. You can also basil bark and soil drench. We don't want to soil drench here with our sandy soils and water quality issues, so we're going to stay away from that. 2 different chemicals that you can use. There's imidacloprid. You get 5 to 7 years of control, and it's really cheap. It's something that's easily available. A lot of companies make it. Dinotefuran is 7 times the cost, but you get really fast control. So if you have a tree that's really sick, almost dead, you can treat it with dinotefuran, and that tree will rebound and be good to go in a couple weeks. But it's a really expensive cost. So the recommended treatment methods here in Michigan are going to be injections and basil bark of imidacloprid. You can get a lot of long-term control for a pretty decent price. And treatment window is pretty much from May to October, so it's really weather dependent. So treatment should be taken off here pretty soon. So with this, all larger trees, so all your trees that are 5 inches and up would be injected. So that's putting chemicals straight into it. Where your small trees are basil. If you can't you can't drill holes into those smaller trees, you'll do more harm than good. So those would be basil sprayed. So Allie and her class, with what they've surveyed, they've been able to predict and kind of run some numbers to predict the number of inches that are out there at the 3 different properties. So we broke it up between Duncan Woods, Mulligan, and the cemetery. So in total, we're estimating roughly 3,500 trees between the 3 properties, 36,000 inches of DBH. So DBH is diameter at breast height. So when you walk up to a tree, it's the width of the trees at chest level. So 36,000 inches, which is a lot of trees. There's a lot of trees out there. So with that, there's 32,000 inches that would be injected, 3,700 inches of spray. So it's still a lot of trees on that basil spray, but they're a lot more work because you have to go find all those little 6-inch trees. So a lot more effort to get those ones. Looking at some money. So if organizations were interested in treating this, I ran the numbers from a consulting firm that I've worked with in the past using their prices with the projected inches that are out there. In total, to treat those 3 properties, we're looking at a little over $225,000, which is a significant amount of money. Being that I work for the district, we're not trying to make a profit. So we're able to do things like this a lot cheaper. With the projects I have going on in Oceana County and all the work I'm already doing, I already have all the equipment. I already have contracts for cheaper chemicals. I have all these things going on where I can do it at a lot cheaper cost just in the position I'm at, not being for profit, not having overhead, things like that. I do have to apologize. These slides are incorrect. So I talked to Joe on Friday. There was some confusion with the chemical company we're working with on the intent of this work, and they thought we were doing a little more research-based and there was going to be some data coming out of it. So my chemical prices are changing a little bit. So I brought new tables for you guys that I'll give to you in a second, that it's roughly 10,000 more total. So the total price for treatment for the 3 properties would be 29,308. And I have these new tables I'll bring up in a second. The survey costs, and I kind of wanted to give you guys a higher end ballpark just to put it all out there, would be roughly $11,000 just to do the survey. So for the survey, you have to transect survey, so walk every inch of the property, tag every tree has to get a tree tag, and map where it's at. That way we can take it, put it into mapping programs, and plan out our treatments and look at our per acre per year limits and do all that. And then once we get back, we need to know which tree is rich, so we need that identifying number. So with Allie and her students doing a lot of this work, that price would likely be less, but I kind of want to just give the highest price of what it would cost. So roughly $40,000 between the 3 properties, and we could 100% treat this issue. So when we were working with the ENRC, they kind of asked us to give us the recommendations, the list of options. I put them as best to worst. So let's start at number 6. So there's always an option of just cutting all the hemlock trees down and giving up. I would not recommend that idea. That'd be a lot of money and a lot of work, and you would lose that great resource that we have. Option 5 is do nothing. You can kind of just let this go. Tree mortality normally happens with HWA in 7 to 10 years, but it's all stress dependent. The tree has other stressors. If we have droughts, things like that, you can speed that up or you can slow that 7 to 10 years down. Mechanical management, you can stick with just the tree trimming and try and limit your spread and not actually treat any of the trees. You can selectively treat trees. So some of those large trees in Duncan Woods they're amazing trees. They're ones that we really don't want to lose. So you can kind of say, hey, let's set aside X amount of money and really just try and focus on 100 trees, and let's really care about those ones and let the rest go. You can treat trees over the next 5 years. You can say, hey, let's just chunk this off. Let's put a little bit of money towards it every year and slowly address this issue, or you can go all in and get it all addressed at once. The one major benefit to just addressing it all at once is you're limiting spread. So every year you wait, there's that much more spread that's going to happen into the community, into private property, into other public areas, which is just going to increase overall costs for the community and the area to manage this issue. So the recommendation that we were kind of pushing for is a mixture between 4 and 1. If possible, I understand that's a lot of money, but that would best address your issue in the long term, keeping your costs lower for management of this in the area. And I think that was our last slide. So I'll bring these up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any questions for Callie or I?
Does it depend anything on the size of the tree as to the effectiveness of the treatment?
No. So these chemicals are very effective. So from a 6-inch tree to a 40-inch tree, it'll just change the amount of chemical we use.
Okay.
So we need so many grams per inch of tree, and we're good to go.
How quickly does it work?
Roughly 12 months before you see full control on the tree.
Right. And in the meantime, it's moving from tree to tree, right? So
Correct, yeah. Your other option is going to the dyno. So the dyno is the 7 times more expensive. You'll get control in 2 weeks, but it only lasts for a year. So you'd have to do a dyno treatment and an amino treatment.
Okay. And this one was 5 to 7, you said it was?
5 to 7 years.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have questions?
Are the treatment cost, does that include the trimming up 8 feet, or is that in addition to the treatment cost? I'm not sure that's broken down. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's not the trimming, but
Okay. Derek's gonna go out and do it all by himself?
There you go, Derek. Derek Gates, Public Works Director. Yeah, we've been in communication with the group and said that we would take that on ourselves, and really would be a couple days, and we're willing to do that or ready to do that if the council is on board, and we want to wait tonight to hear kind of what you guys were thinking.
That'd be in-house.
That's good.
So will the treatment be done before the crawlers emerge, or it can be done at any time?
crawlers are going to be emerging in the next couple of weeks. Treatments will probably start taking place in about a month or so. The treatment window will open and go through the end of October.
Okay, so the treatment window doesn't include when they're in their egg sacs?
No. So we're really trying to treat the tree to put the chemical in the tree so that when they feed on it, they die. So we just need to get chemical in the tree this year to start the process, and once it moves to the tree, then it'll be protected from future insects.
They're out there trimming the tree right now. They can put their clothes in the dryer.
Yes.
It will kill any crawler that's on it. But yeah, the important thing is don't go into Mulligan Hollow and then go to another parking right now.
On the, on the survey, did I hear you right that the Grand Valley is doing a survey also out there? Would you, the survey that you have listed here, is that part of the Grand Valley survey, or is that, you know?
All of the data that was in the, all of the data that was in the presentation was from, that was the current data that we have for Grand Haven.
Would you incorporate that in with the, I'm talking about the cost of the survey again? I don't want to do, is it be redundant to do it all over again, or do we?
Yeah, so that would bring the survey cost down. I just gave the, if nothing was happening, here's the top cost, and then it would come down. The more the students can do, the less we would have to do.
Okay.
But we have, I don't,
That's what I'm saying.
it's hard to guess that middle ground in between. So I just gave you the ceiling of, at most, it would be this, and
Okay. That's just what I wanted to know if you're,
and then, but no, we would work together, and we would
Very
we would
good.
definitely see what we could work
thank
out.
you.
Pat, are there, oh, you,
Well, I was going to ask, has this been presented to the Duncan Park Board at this point, or?
I presented to the Duncan Woods Commission in December,
Okay.
and I've been in correspondence with Roger Kottner about it, so he is up to date with the current information. I'm not sure if he has the map from March 21st, but he has very recent information.
So if we wanted to move forward with an aggressive treatment recommendation, which is what it sounds like we're getting, we would want to have a decision made by, you know, to start your actual, to get the stuff ordered and get things lined up. When do we need to get a decision made, do you think?
The sooner the better. I have my staff's on for what I'm going to do. If this comes to life, I would probably need to bring on more staff. So the sooner I know, so I can get things going, the better, because this is a couple months worth of work for me. So June at the latest. Probably,
June at the latest.
if I'm going to try and pull this off this year.
Because I'm thinking there may be various funding sources out there.
Right.
Duncan Woods, we can talk to them because a good chunk of this is in Duncan Woods. You know, the city itself and also our community foundation may have an interest. I'll go down and talk to them, and we'll see what we can pull together this month yet. Sounds pretty urgent.
It does.
And I think if you look at the map, you can see Holland area. Holland area is covered in it. So I really want to get a hold of this before we get more widespread, like some of these other cities that it's way out of the bag, and it's going to be a huge undertaking to address those areas where this is still pretty doable this year.
Okay.
So.
Well, this would be a big investment in our future.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's a cool tree.
You can also communicate with the public, you know, via your websites or newspapers, that the people can go out into their yards and look at their trees, and if they see anything, they can report it. And if they're willing to treat the trees on their property, that would be amazing. That would be very helpful in limiting the spread of this.
So if people wanted to treat their own trees on their own property, would they be able to benefit from your costs?
Yes and no. Yes, I just have to.
I like the first answer better.
Being that I work at the district, we only can get so big, and I only have so much capacity. We're a for-profit entity. I can pull in people from out of state. I can only grow so big. So I can only take on so much work this year, and I don't know where my ceiling's at yet.
Can this be applied by individuals who are not trained by you?
The injectors themselves are $2,000 setups. So more than likely not, because the average person's not going to have the equipment to do it the right way. But yes, we can definitely work with people. I just can't commit to taking on everything this year because.
Okay.
All right. No, appreciate it.
and Pat, my question was on alternative sources of funding, so nailed that, thank you. The other component seems to be a little bit of signage, in particular on the dog walk areas and in Mulligan's Hollow. Is that something that we can, I don't know, got some sample signs that you've seen and maybe get those
I know
to
some
us?
people are working on it. I don't have finished products yet, but if you guys can, if it's possible to hang signs, I can work on trying to speed people up. I just want to make sure we're allowed to hang them once we get them.
Yeah, and maybe that's a Parks and Rec question. I don't know who that would be.
There are
to, but-
rules to what the signs are, maybe certain sizes, certain color, like, if
Yeah.
you can give me if anyone can let me know that stuff, I can work on meeting those requirements.
That was brought up before when Grand Valley came to us and talked about the same situation here, about the signage out there that we were talking about. I think we brought that up and thought it was a good recommendation to go forward with it, letting people know. If I remember, I think you were the one that presented it, weren't you? Remember, Alexandra?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, that was my forestry class last.
Yeah, when they did that report, they talked about letting people know by putting signs up on the trails so they know where to go, and that's probably a good point for us to do, to start out with.
I can confidently report, that public purpose signs for public information and education are exempt from our ordinance, so whatever you come up with, whatever your standard is as
Yes.
far as height, I think Derek and the DPW can help get them located in the different areas. And Ally, you mentioned other areas we might like looked at. I mean, if you're looking for more space to look, we've got a lot of open space north of the river, in the dunes up there that, we'd love to know what the risks are up there and how many hemlocks we have over. I don't know, how many acres do we have over there, Derek? Do you know, is it 100? 120 or so? Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
have at it.
I
Well, then-
always have students saying, I need capstone projects, so.
All right, well, KLD is pretty big too, they might be interested.
Yeah, all that real estate.
Ketchelenkwas Dunes Preserve,
Altogether, there's probably 200 plus acres over
yeah,
there.
easily.
Then there's
Crew's
Ottawa
start-
Hills
Crew is
area.
starting to panic right now. How big is your staff? No.
Yep.
I think we definitely want to do something, and the sooner the better, as you pointed out. So I'd be in favor of getting this on an agenda in the very near future to vote on, one way or another, as far as our funding goes, or from the general fund for the city. As Bob pointed out, this is investment in the future.
Budgets are coming up.
Did we do the tree trimming before you inject or not?
If possible, I think the tree trimmings to start tomorrow.
All right,
Because
okay.
the sooner you get it done, you want to beat those crawlers. So you got like 2 weeks until crawlers really start hatching, and if possible, you want to get it done prior to that.
Okay.
So you've got to make sure that you don't shake little, whatever it is off the, when you cut the limb, you've got to put it in a container that the stuff is not going to take off on you.
Right now, the recommendation with the state is it can't leave the property, so you cut it off and throw it under the tree. So for the trail, you would take it and you would throw it off the trail on the ground, because once that branch is cut, anything on it will die.
Oh,
It's not going to
okay.
be able to live off that branch once it's cut from the tree. So if we cut them now, you just throw them off the trail on the
Because they
ground.
haven't hatched yet, so they're.
Yeah, so we're good to go, as long as we can beat that 2-ish week window.
Well, should we adjourn the meeting? We can all grab a saw.
Sounds
Get out there right
like
now.
fun.
Get the big lights out.
I just gave Pat a map of a bunch of property on the north side.
Can I just give it to?
Sure.
Like this, we're handing out stuff to you. Here you see, this is all city property. And this is, preserve, so it's.
The other side has the plats.
It's all you.
All right, well, that gives us a lot to work on, and we will go look for some money.
Thank you, guys.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on our agenda is the Warburg Drain Condition Report, and Joe Bush, and our,
Neighborhood Housing Services and Funding Report got
Yep.
moved.
Well, you know what, we can,
I'm sorry.
Denny's here, so we can do it. when
Yeah,
we
Denny's here.
like.
Never mind.
All right, Rhonda. You're up, Joe. Oh. Do you mind, Derek, if I come up?
no, you just come right ahead.
Thanks, City Council.
Thanks, Joe.
I got a little bigger map here to help out.
Thanks, Joe.
Trying to follow.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for letting me come and talk to me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, okay. Billy.
Derek Gatis, Public Works Director. Warburg Drain on Robbins Road has been failing for, ever since I got here, a couple, 2.5 years ago. And Joe's office asked us to televise that for him as we responded to so many complaints of sinkholes. And so we did a couple years ago, and Joe and the township with some development interests out there and some interest putting some sidewalks, said, hey, we need to go fix this. So Joe's here to present those options. Just want to give you a little history of where we've been and where we need to go. Joe?
All righty. Well, thanks again, Mayor and the council for letting me talk a little bit tonight. There was a great article, I think it was about a week ago. I think Alex put an article in the Grand Haven Tribune. It was a good article about the Warburg drain problems. He did a great job explaining when he called me what was going on. And then there was a petition that we were looking at, because in order for me to move forward on a project, I need a petition from either the city or Grand Haven Township because of the cost of the project. Drain commissioners or water resources commissioners are not allowed to spend over $5,000 per mile per year per drain, and this is going to way outcost that. So petition is necessary. So it's either going to be between Grand Haven Township or Grand Haven City. Again, Derek did a great job. Him and I have been talking about this for quite a while, and Bill Cargo as well from Grand Haven Township on the condition of the Warburg drain. It needs to be replaced with what we saw in the video. And I think Derek might have shared that before, the condition. So in order for me to move forward, again, a petition was necessary. It didn't matter to me whether it came from the city or the township. Over a week ago, the township went ahead and initiated the petition to move forward with a project. So what that means is the next step is a board of determination. This is all in drain code, state law. And the board of determination is 3-member panel appointed by me, and it's a public hearing. And that is time for anybody that lives in the Warburg Drain District to either come there and share their problems on the Warburg Drain, or maybe they don't have a problem, but that 3-panel board is a decision maker on moving a project forward, not the cost or not what the project looks like. It's just called the necessity of moving forward with a project. And what I gave you a map of kind of the whole city is not included in the Warburg Drain. It's only a subsection down by Robbins Road, just to the north. It's like a rectangle type of shape. It's kind of in the red. That's kind of the sub-district of the Warburg Drain. And then, of course, you see the Grand Haven Township also utilizes that Robbins Road new improvement of the bike path. I believe their DDA could be putting money towards this because they have money to spend there in that location that they've been saving up for. What they don't want to do is put a new bike path or ped path or whatever you want to call it for their redevelopment, and then find out in 5 years later they got to redo it because the pipe collapsed. The pipe obviously is shot. There's a lot of holes in it, a lot of separation. It's about a 30 to 36 inch. It kind of varies in between there. I think it was kind of piecemealed a couple times over the multiple years. And there's a kind of on the big screen. There we go. Thanks, Pat. Thanks for doing that. So yeah, you can kind of get a good visual of what that looks like. The drain district itself is quite large, all the way west of the tracks over by North Ottawa Community Hospital, and then it goes east all the way to where you see the line, that road there. I can't remember if that's 170. Yeah. So yeah, quite a large district, but the only thing in the hash marks is what's in this sub-district. So that's the only portion of the city that would be benefiting from the upgrade and the pipe. So that's the only percentage that you guys would be paying. And also MDOT would be paying a portion, Grand Haven Township obviously, and then maybe some special assessments within that district to those businesses in there. So anybody who benefits and contributes to the drain, the new improvements, they're the ones that would pay for it. So again, that 3-panel board that I appoint, they have no affiliation with the township nor the city or any properties in here near the district. I usually pick other township supervisors or mayors or even retired road commission people, engineers. So that way they understand drain code, the drains, and how important it is that they function. But they're not going to have any properties or have any affiliation with the township or city whatsoever. So they're not biased. And then it's not up to me. I just go there, start the meeting, and then I swear them in. And then once they get appointed, they elect their own chair and secretary, and then they move forward and hear testimony from people who live in that area. That's kind of how the process works. But I wanted to come and just share with you guys that it's kind of a collaboration effort. Derek has been an awesome person to mentor through the process, because he's like, well, is the whole city getting apportionments, or Is the city paying for it all? No. No, it's been, you know, so I'm here tonight to answer any questions or loosen those gaps as far as what that looks like for the city as far as cost. We know it's about $450,000. It's not a cheap fix, but it's all concrete, and there's probably other things in the works, I think, with the water. Is that true? Yeah. We talked about looping the water, or you guys did at the same time. So we want to do this in a collaboration where we can save money in the end by doing multiple phases to different things while the road's ripped up.
Yeah, the township's planning on looping a water main down Robbins Road on the south side there, along with this project, and installing a pedestrian path, either a bike path or a sidewalk along that. So those are not included in the cost, but those could be cost-sharing parts of the project. This project that has outlined here would take 1/3 of the roadway, one lane, if you will, the eastbound lane, and reconstruct the curb and gutter. And so we'd have a nice curb and gutter when we're done, a functioning roadway. However, the rest of the Robbins Road needs it as well. And so whether that's something that we look at partnering with them, you know, as a city, we need to find some funding for that as well. So whether or not that happens would be up to you and I guess our coffers to complete that. So options, we're not there yet to understand those costs. We haven't hired an engineer. The other thing that this would have more than likely happen is next spring. By the time Joe would get it designed and work with the township and bid, I don't really see it being a viable fall project now, or potentially.
Grand Haven Township has a lot of money. Want to pay for it?
Bet they do.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess it could be, but.
Could be. Maybe.
So the shared project, the water main is gonna be theirs cost though, is that right?
Water main and sidewalk would be theirs.
Okay, all right.
The drain.
The drain will be a shared cost?
Yep.
We don't know what kind of percentage we're looking at yet though, right?
Correct. No, we don't.
Okay.
We're still in the beginning phases yet. But I wanted to come and share with you guys what, you know, where we're at in the steps, and the Grand Haven Township already petitioned me. So I haven't set a BOD date, you know, board determination date yet, but, you know, I'm sure Derek will be there, or Pat or somebody representation from the city.
Okay.
So
I want to be very transparent with that cost.
There'll be a public meeting, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So would restoration of pavement and curb and gutter be a shared cost as well?
I'm assuming that, yes, that it'll be just one project,
Right,
and then there'll be a shared cost with that.
Because it's a city street, but we wouldn't be doing the project if it weren't for the shared portion of this.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah.
I have another
The
question.
township's been willing to, you know, contribute that cost.
I have another question for you. In your report, you talk about the need to resize this drain, that it's,
We could go up another size, correct.
it looks to me like you need to go up to about a 6-foot diameter drain from reading this, and it says a lot of that is attributable to development on the south side of Robbins Road, presumably township development. Is that because of a drastic increase in impervious surface?
Correct.
So then,
So we, you know, with our development standards, we weren't able to kind of get that water into our pond or retention or detention. So anything we try to capture that water and then keep it on site for such a period of time, but sometimes that's not always the case because you gotta know where to go with it.
mhm.
So, but any new development has been able to make that, but it's all the redevelopment that can be a problem.
So with the increased demand, if the pipe is required to be larger, would that be a disproportionate cost on the township's part rather than the city's, because it's not our problem?
Yep,
It becomes our problem when the water doesn't go down the pipe, but I mean, we're not causing that part of the problem.
correct.
Okay.
And that's why they want to kind of move forward. So they know there's going to be quite a bit of cost. And that's where their DDA comes in.
And that's the way, we have to negotiate that right with the township, what
Yeah,
you're gonna
there'll be a
contribute
lot
and
of
what.
opportunities.
Yeah,
Yep.
but like Bob said, because the storm sewer is gonna have to be upgraded and larger than it is, that's size because of the developments over there in the township should be mostly their cost.
Cost,
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. That's called supplemental benefit. So if they benefit more because of the upsize of the cost, or
Okay.
the upsize of the size of the pipe, which is more cost, then that would be onto the township.
Right. And we could increase the size all the way to the size that we have at Griffin Street, is that right?
That I'm not sure.
Because it flows down Griffin?
Bill probably knows.
Yeah, that's,
36, I think. It can, yeah.
well, that's not included in your crosshatch rectangle there,
Well, that's because I
heading
don't
north up
think-
Griffin.
Yeah, there's actually a spot on the northern side of that hash mark where the Werber drain goes straight to the east. So that's why the whole, the
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Werber
but-
drain actually stops at the railroad tracks. But if you look up there, the top of that hash mark, there's
Yeah,
actually.
but all that water needs to head north up alongside White Pines Intermediate School and out in the open.
And that's where it goes. It actually goes all the way to the east.
Okay. Well,
All that water doesn't go and travel to Robbins Road.
No,
Even over
no,
the drain.
no, it has to be tapped off and taken north up Griffin. So that, I assume that's where all the water ends up.
Yeah. I know where you're talking now. Okay.
Yeah, so if you bump the size of that drain, you gotta tear up Griffin Street as well,
I think it's already 36 in there,
but you're talking about 72-inch drain here.
72.
Okay. On page 42. of
Hey,
this-
I heard you say 6 feet.
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's
Result, peak discharge of 240 cubic feet per second, which would require 72-inch diameter pipe or equivalent, which is likely not feasible to significant costs, so on and so forth. For reference, the downstream conveyance at Griffin Street is 48-inch diameter. So, I mean, if you had to increase the size of the pipe in Robbins Road, would you also have to increase the size of the pipe running north along Griffin?
I don't think so. I was surprised. No.
What page you on there?
Well, page,
42.
well, it's page 42 of our attachment.
Oh, probably won't be the same for them.
3.0 findings, first page of that, about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraph.
So I guess the question is that, the 72 inches, that's worst case scenario, that's not,
That's probably worst case scenario.
okay. So do you build for the worst case scenario, or you build for something, like if there's that much drainage, or if there's that much rain or whatever,
Right.
that you're gonna build for the maximum, or something like the 48 inches, which is
I think
probably
48
more
would be
realistic?
sufficient, Right? Yeah. We would just go up to 48.
Okay.
We wouldn't go to 72.
Because that,
It'd be
I mean,
cost prohibitive, number one.
that's
And number
kind of what
two,
I was
it's too
thinking.
big.
Yeah.
But that'd be worst case scenario.
So that's if we tried to meet the county standard as far as the 10-year event.
Right.
Yeah, I've walked down that sewer, and the 48 sounds like right, a lot, yeah, a lot, that, yeah,
72, you
yeah.
scared me a minute. I'm like, wait a
Yeah,
minute.
that's what, that was what was proposed in this write-up. It
Correct.
said it could be as large as
Could be as large,
7,
okay.
for that 240 gallons,
But how-
cubic feet per second.
Yeah. No, it's like 48.
Well, 48 is what you got, so I guess that's what you have to work with.
Yep.
Okay.
Wanted to point out too, I was calling Derek, I'm Brian Sensi with ENG, the engineering firm that did the study. One of the benefits of the cost sharing on these projects, and more municipalities are doing with Drain Commissioner, Water Resources Commissioner's Office, is if it's all under the one project, the drain project, he'll do supplemental benefit assessment for, like, if it's the township sidewalk portion, but they can also tack on to the bond that they'll get, or the note, if we get lucky enough to get a long enough term note, I'm assuming at least be a 10-year, probably 15 or 20 on this, and pay that off incrementally, so you don't have to have that money for, if you do road improvements next spring or next year's fiscal year, you can pay that off over time and get a good tax-free municipal bond rate that we get. So that's one of the benefits of adding this work onto a drain project, is using the bond that's done for the project and paying your costs off over time.
Thank you. Okay, on this drawing, where exactly is the drain?
It's in a dark line up there.
Or the one that we have here?
Yep.
Because
Yeah, that might not be on that.
Oh, okay.
map.
And I'm
It's in
looking
that
through
dark
the-
line right along Robbins Road.
dark line right along. Oh,
Right on the south edge of Robbins Road.
It's just off the curb, it's just south of the curb. It's
Curb
just
of
south of the
Robbins
curb on Robbins Road on the south
Runs
side.
east-west.
that right there.
Yep.
Okay. That's right, we need the laser pointer thing and then we can.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Okay, good.
That makes it.
And then from a cost perspective, I've got, well, it says page 46 and 47 in mine. And I've got one, is this one, option one, full replacement, 441, 987. Okay, and option two, 455, and option, well, 2.2, I guess, 446. Regardless, we're looking at about $450,000.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
Divided by some percentage between the city and the.
Correct.
Okay, good deal.
Yep, and MDOT. MDOT's gonna be in there too, so.
I think I'll say this, we're working real hard. You mentioned bonds. We're working real hard to not do bonds
Correct.
anymore, which you may not have known, but we're trying to get in a cash basis. But the benefit, to your point, of cost sharing this, if we've got MDOT and we've got Grand Haven Township in there, you know, that makes it feasible for us to do that and kind of stick to our long-term plan of not taking on more debt.
Almost brings that to zero, I think, for us.
Yeah, right, because, yeah. And there's that benefit right there. Yeah. I got
Well-
$1 in my wallet. Kick something in, yeah.
The best of intentions, and then these things that you don't have in your plan
You're right,
pop,
absolutely.
you know, raise their ugly head, so,
They do. But we're always willing to work with the city.
sure.
so,
No, we appreciate that.
And then be very transparent with Derek
Yes,
as we
Pat.
move forward.
You know, one thing that's been gnawing at me, you can see the Health Point development to the south of the defined district.
Yep,
And when that was being built, I was a little bit curious about what they were going to do with their stormwater. Is there stormwater entering the Warburg watershed?
I believe, I think that goes south on that one, right? That goes south. I'm trying to, where'd it go? Yeah, it's out of the district. It's out of the blue line. Yep, right there. It goes south. It goes over by Meyer. Yep. Capacity.
Pat was looking for another funding source.
Yeah, right. I'd like to hit them for some
I
money.
know where you're going, that's good.
So health,
You'll never get anything out of them.
so Health Point goes, it don't go into Warburg Drain then?
Nope, it's out of the drain district, so
Okay, all right. My understanding that they did go there, but it don't. Okay, all right.
just a little bit portion of the northern part, but I see it
We'll
going
take it.
south. Yeah, take it. If they're in, they're gonna be paying, so.
So the new development on Robbins Road, though, will be going in there?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Yeah, their outlet does go there, for sure.
okay.
Any other questions for me?
Would the correction, would the improvements be needed in any event, regardless of whether or not the township was working on sidewalk on Robbins Road?
Absolutely,
And this is a deteriorating drain
correct.
in any event.
That's right.
So it's not being initiated by them wanting to put in a sidewalk, it
Not
needs
at
to
all.
be rebuilt.
Absolutely, yeah. What the video is clearly shown many, many leaks in it, where it's seeping in water through all the cracks. It's cracked in a lot of joints. So it's, yeah, there's a lot of open joints and a lot of erosion going inside the pipe to plug it up, which is not flowing very well.
Picture I like most is the one with the gas line going through it.
You like that one too?
Yeah, that was,
That looks real safe, doesn't it?
Those are classic ones. Yeah, we like those.
Yeah.
Or don't even know.
Besides the cracks and holes and everything else on it, the one I was looking at really closely is the gas line. It goes right through the middle of a drain. I'm going, boy, how'd that ever happen? You know, I mean, come on.
Happens more times than not.
Oh, yeah.
Hope it doesn't shift.
Common when you get in these older systems.
Yeah.
Would that be a problem if we filled that drain with natural gas?
Could be.
We've seen them go through sanitary.
Replace it really quickly that way if it
I
lights up.
suppose. We pop all the manhole covers.
Yeah. It'd be an open drain then.
We've seen them go through not only storm lines, but
Well,
sanitary lines also.
doesn't even
Yeah.
sound good.
It's nice when they do that. They
Oh,
don't even
yeah,
know it
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. They don't tell you.
No.
They just do it, yeah.
Surprise.
is something like this, and forgive me, I didn't read Alex's article. I'm sure it was fine work.
Good job, by the way. It was a great article. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate that.
I'm thinking of reports on underground water and sinkholes.
Mhm.
Are we in danger of creating a sinkhole of some sort that's gonna swallow a car?
No, not at this
Not
size
this point,
pipe.
okay.
Now, if we were over in east side, yeah, in Detroit, yeah,
Yeah, okay, all right.
with 11 foot
But the concept is there, right, where
there.
something's leaking out the bottom and it eventually. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That'd be the 6-foot diameter.
Yes.
That'd be the 72-inch diameter.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All righty.
Well, thank you. I
think we're
appreciate
good.
your time tonight.
Appreciate the information.
You're welcome.
We will be moving, we'll be hearing more from you.
Oh, for sure.
All right, actually, we have 5 minutes. Is that enough time to start on our next project, or should we take advantage of this moment and take, yeah,
Let's
all
take-
right.
Take five.
Okay, so
Let's take 5.
we're gonna take 5, and we're gonna, this is a kind of a special day, Eric. It's, wait a minute, I gotta, yeah, there's good things going on as more people are filtering in order to, and come on in and find a seat, because this is not just your average day, this is a special day. So this is the day that we honor one of our most faithful members on his I don't know a number, but it's the anniversary of his birth. And so we just want to, you know, if everybody wants to kind of light up the band, we're gonna sing happy birthday to our council member Mike Fritz, because he lucked out because his birthday fell on a Monday of a council meeting. So sure, we'll start off with this. And I am not a good singer, so if anybody around here is,
Won't be me.
maybe we better wait until the guest of honor arrives. So
Maybe Pat can lead us.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, Pat or Dale. I think Dale's a good singer, aren't you, Dale?
Thank you, guys, I appreciate it a whole lot.
you read from spring break here? Okay, all right.
Yeah, he's been.
Sun already.
He's out in the sun 24 hours a day.
It's been one of those days, you know, you wake up in the morning, you go to breakfast with your daughter, of course, you know, and then you go to work. And then you work and you work, and then you come here and you go to work. I said I got my first job I go to work at during the day, now I gotta go to my second job was here, so I appreciate the honor and all, so thank you so
Absolutely.
very much.
There.
Oh,
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michael. Happy birthday to you.
Don't be dropping that. One candle for each term you served on city council.
Oh, there you go.
well, I'm actually, you know, I put my petition in to run again for a
Quick, get another one.
Well, thank you very much.
You gotta make a wish.
Well, you don't have to tell us. Okay. Otherwise, it doesn't work,
Yeah, it's
right?
a secret.
Yeah. There you
Yay!
go.
Still full of winter. Is a sharp knife.
So there's a sharp knife.
All right. So
Anybody
we're
want
gonna-
cake?
Right, so we are gonna take now that everybody's here, we're gonna take a short break. Come on out. There's some cake to be had out in the hallway. After our brief intermission and a piece of cake, we are going to start our, call to order our Grand Haven City Council meeting. And then after our preliminary items here, then we will go back and finish up our work session items. So Linda, you want to call the roll, please?
Manetza?
Here.
Bruger?
Here.
Scott?
Here.
Fritz?
Here.
McCaleb?
Here. Our invocation this evening will be given by Pastor Nate Burkholz of Lakeshore Baptist Church, Grand Haven. So, and please remain standing after the prayer for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for a wonderful city that we get to enjoy here. Thank you for the seasons that are coming in, and we anticipate more and more folks coming into our city, and we thank you that it's a beautiful city. Thank you for the workers around town and for the jobs that they do. Thank you for the council members, and even for days like today, a birthday, and a celebration of life. And so thank you for Council Member Mike and the work that he does here. I pray for those that are in the room tonight, and many are coming with questions, challenges, and you tell us that if we lack wisdom, we can ask you for it, and you give it to us. And so we pray for your wisdom, and I pray for a spirit of peace as well among us all. I pray for those who are here this evening, even just their lives outside of this meeting. They may have challenges and particular things that are a burden to them this evening. And I pray that they'd be able to find hope and peace in you. You're a good shepherd who takes care of us. Thank you so much for your kind grace to us in Jesus. It's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, we've got some new appointments this evening to members of, hopefully, to be members of our Compensation Commission. So, Linda, you want to read that item?
We're sure we want to approve? That depend on.
Be nice, Josh. They're the Compensation Commission.
Yeah, it's probably good.
Okay, this is to appoint Dale, I never know how to pronounce it. Is it Quaco? Okay. To the Compensation Commission with a term ending December 31st, 2021. Daniel Borchers to the Compensation Commission with a term ending December 31st, 2022. And William Chappell to the Compensation Commission with a term ending December 31st, 2023.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved. I'd like to make that
Second.
motion.
It's been moved and seconded. If there is no questions, we can have a vote.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. And Dan's not able to be here this evening, but he is be sworn in. Okay, all right.
Vulcan thing.
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Compensation Commission in the County of Ottawa and State of Michigan. I, William Chappell, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Compensation Commission in accordance with the Grand Haven, County of Ottawa, and State of Michigan, according to law.
I do.
We are to approval of a consent and regular agendas. Are there any changes?
Yes, Your Honor, I have a couple items I would like to suggest we make a few changes to the agenda tonight. The first one being after the public hearing on the Long Road Distillery permit. The first item would be I'd like to add a portion of that resolution repealing the previous approval recommendation that you made for the Copper Post location at your, I believe it was the March 22nd meeting?
18th, yep.
March 18th meeting, like I said. And also that approval be conditioned upon an agreement to transfer responsibility for some debt payments on the property at 18 Washington Avenue to the new occupant. There's some concern and some discussion a couple individual council members have had with me since Friday about the nature of some payments due on that property and whether or not this transaction would impact that. I've had an opportunity to chat with the owners of the distillery, and they're willing to work with us on an agreement that would firm that up and make it a little more clear for us. So I think you could go ahead and approve this tonight. We'd get the signatures on there. At the same time, we'd get some signatures on an agreement transferring those payments over to the new owners of the property, or the new owners under the land contract.
Okay, so to make sure that the city gets the money that's owed to it over time.
Yeah, to make sure that this doesn't put that at risk, doesn't put the continuation of those payments at risk. So that is one addition I would like to request. Also, I feel very terrible about this. I was not in the office last week, and a resolution to lease property at the depot got placed on the agenda. Following up on some questions I got about that, it looks like the property is not set up in such a way to accommodate food service preparation. It could handle packaged food sales or sales of packaged goods, but not for preparation of food, because the exterior doors that come up, the open windows, can't have the food prep happening right there in the outdoors location, according to the health department. Also, there's significant electrical and plumbing work that's not in there, so I don't think that use is appropriate for that space, and I don't think you should be voting on that tonight. I would, the one bid that we got to enter that space is a very persistent and hardworking local small business that I'd like to, put some significant effort into finding a place for this business in the downtown district, including possibly in a pop-up location. We haven't done much of that, but the few pop-ups we have had have been successful. I think a pop-up location in that first block of Washington would be a very attractive area, so I'd like to further evaluate other alternatives because this is a business we'd like to see in our downtown district. It's a proven operator in our downtown district, but this particular location is not going to pass muster with the health department. I don't think we'd be doing anybody a service by leasing it out for that purpose. There's also some concern about competition with our existing tenants, and some may feel that this particular business might present a competition that we had earlier pledged not to do, that we weren't going to put some competition to local Chinook Pier businesses into that space. But probably more compelling is the idea that in talking to the health department, there's no screens on those openings, and there's no way to separate the food preparation from the outdoors. So I really believe that item ought to be removed tonight from the agenda.
Okay, but all right, that's a good thing. That's pass muster, but if we can find another location, that would be good too. All right, now, so do you have wording for the change to item 12A, it'd be 12C then, for the stipulations that we put on
Yes,
that?
and when we get to that, Linda will read that language.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we will adjust item 12C and take off item 13A. So is there a motion? Anything else? Any other suggestions? All right, so we need a motion to accept the agendas with those 2 changes.
I'll make that motion,
All right.
support with changes.
All right. And we need a vote on that.
Bruger,
No.
Scott,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza,
Yes.
Michaela.
Yes. All right, so, general business call the audience. This is one of 2 opportunities to address council on anything that you have on your mind. So if you would like to, present something now, just come up, tell us who you are, where you live.
There, everyone. My name's Rebecca Neal. I live at 1644 Franklin Avenue, right here in Grand Haven. I was here a couple weeks ago in interest of opening a medical marijuana provisioning center here in Grand Haven. Per the current resolution that might be finalized tonight of banning against recreation, I think this is a prime time to have this conversation. I'm a medical consumer as well, an educator on the matter, and I would like to further see this put on the agenda for future conversations. So I appreciate that consideration, and thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to address council at this time? If not, we will go back to the last 2 items on our work session agenda. So the first one, which is,
To be the Neighborhood Housing Services and Funding Report.
oh, we're gonna do that one first before the Marina? Okay. So, Rhonda, you're on.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
that's in
you
there.
for having me. I'm Rhonda Klein from the Neighborhood Housing Services Department. And I just came tonight to give you a little bit of an update on what's going on in our department since the beginning of the fiscal year in July, and a little bit of briefly what we're looking ahead to do. So to start with, you know, this isn't new information, it's an update on what we've continued to do, but so these are our services, our education services, thank you, that are MSHDA and HUD funded. Between MSHDA and HUD for this current fiscal year, we have about $45,000. HUD gives us 15, MSHDA gave us 30 for these education services this year. That's been about the amount that they've been giving us every year. It's about, for the MSHDA, it's about the maximum they give to any agency in the state. Last April, both myself and Lynn Volkema became HUD certified counselors. We took the test and were certified the first time, which from what I understand, most people are taking the test 2 and 3 times to get certified, so.
Way to go.
Good for you.
I do not want to do that 2 or 3 times.
You're done.
There's a requirement that in order to get HUD funding and MSHDA funding, that by August of 2020, that we are HUD certified counselors. So we went, once they put that requirement out there, we went ahead and got it done and over with, so we're already certified. There's also a requirement by MSHDA that to continue to get their money, that we become a HUD certified agency. So you have to have HUD certified counselors, you also have to be a HUD certified agency. I submitted that application last fall. Finally, I have some communication that we are just about at the approval process. I don't know how many people have to review it, but it's finally 6 or so months later that we're just about approved. So that's really good news. We don't have to, we're way ahead of the game, and by August of 2020, we'll be all set. So another exciting thing we did last July, we added Muskegon County to our education services. There was one agency in Muskegon County that could do the education services, and we don't know the circumstances, but they lost their ability to do that. So we added Muskegon County so that the residents of that county had somewhere to go. Otherwise, they were having to go way north to Newaygo, Kent County. So now they can come to us. It's added probably, I don't know, maybe only about, it's probably gonna add a total of somewhere between 40 or 50 clients to our services a year. So not a ton, but it's good for them to have somewhere to go. So far, since July 1, the new clients that we have is 93 total new clients, and you can see the different services I have listed there. Primarily, they come in the education group, home buyer ed, and I apologize, that is a little off. When I had to have this turned in last Thursday, there was a problem with the software. It wasn't calculating my report right, so some of that is pre-purchase financial education, renter education. It's all grouped into that 65, because that was the only report that I could pull before I had to turn this in. So it's still, so that's a little skewed, but it is still just general education services. Foreclosure prevention services are down, which is good. We've only had 10 new foreclosure clients since the 1st of July. So that's a significant reduction. So we look at that as a good sign. The next slide is about our Financial Empowerment Center. The funds that we get from our municipal collaboration, including the city, this year we'll get a total of about $60,000. Those are the funds that allow us to provide these services that you see here on this screen. The Financial Empowerment Center, it's still a service that is unique to our area. It's the only, we are the only agency where you can come to get the service for free, for unlimited appointments. It's open to the public. Some agencies are offering some type of their own financial counseling, but it is only to their clients. So if you were like a shelter client there or something like that, you get a limited amount of service, but ours are open to the public. And they're always free. And we have, of course, Lynn Volkema, who's the trained financial coach, who has a lot of experience in that area. We continue to have our relationship with the People Center. They send all of their clients to us. That's the People Center out of Spring Lake. We've had 5 new People Center clients since July. And Love in Action, that's a new relationship with them that we formed in the last few months. And all of the Hope House clients that from Love are also being required to come to us. We are still a DHHS navigation partner, meaning anyone who needs to do an application for DHHS services that either they don't have internet access, or they don't have their own computer, or they don't use a computer, they can come to us and we will help them fill out the application. The state of Michigan actually made their site a little bit easier to use, so I think that's been successful, because we've seen a little bit of a drop in appointments there, which that is again a good thing. They can do it on their own and a lot more user friendly, so that's a good thing. Our on-bill finance program that we were excited to start, I think you all saw the little video and how cool that we had one client so far, and he, I don't know, did Pat share that with you? A little sped up video of the process.
Yeah, that time lapse that we watched.
The time lapse? Yes. Yeah, so I don't know, it was cute. But so that we've had one client come for that, and so that was really easy. We really worked out all the details on that ahead of time, and it was really a simple process for them. So we were really pleased with that. So for these services here, like I said, the municipal funds that we get, and then also the service fees and donations. Get a small amount of donations from banks. Service fees, the People Center pays us a small fee per client for their clients, and we collect for home buyer ed a real tiny fee from our home buyer ed clients, and we also collect the service fee for our neighborhood impact clients, the application fee. So that's what I mean when I say service fee. This is, the next slide is about our neighborhood impact, or our homeowner repair program, I guess I should say. We have a new partnership with West Michigan Community Bank. We worked with them last year. That relationship was awesome. Beth from that bank, she was really easy to work with. Our packets got submitted really quickly, and She was really on top of everything with us, so that went well. And this is the program that allows for homeowners to get up to $7,500 in eligible repairs. We are serving the areas of those 4 municipalities. Last year, in the time frame that the money was available, we were able to get 11 projects approved. And you'll see on the next slide some of how we worked with other programs to get some other leveraged funds to get all of those projects through. The cost of construction, of course, we all know is high. So $7,500 isn't going as far as it did a few years ago. So we've had to get really creative and work hard with homeowners to find other sources of funds to make their projects work. We were really fortunate. In 2018, we got a grant from the Loudet Foundation to use as kind of what we called gap funds. So if a project was going over the $7,500, we could use some of the funds from the Loudet Foundation to make that project work. And we were able to use that on 5 projects, and all 5 of those projects, had that Loudet Foundation money not been there, would not have been completed. The homeowner had no other options left. So we really appreciate that money. So if you know anyone that's on that foundation, give them a big thank you from us.
All right.
But, so right now we are gearing up for 2019. We're scheduling appointments, we're putting together packets. Last year there was $6.5 million from Federal Home Loan Bank. It lasted about 45 days. This year there's $7.8 million. So we're hoping to stretch it out just a little bit more. And the longer it's available, the more projects we can get approved. So, and it seems on the surface like it should just be pretty simple to get these approved, but it is not ever, it's not ever that simple. It's a pretty rigid program with the bank, and their paperwork requirements they're really rigid. They don't vary at all, so sometimes it can be difficult for homeowners to pull that stuff together. And you may have seen this report already also, but this was our 2018 results through that program. You can see the red letters in the box is where we did those projects. We did them in the township, Spring Lake Township. We did them in Ferrysburg and here in the city. And we did everything from furnaces to roofs, windows, siding, insulation, exterior doors, gutters. And you can see what I talked about, what I mentioned about how, like you see on the very first one there, it's windows and doors. The NIP program was $7,500. We used that additional $100 from the Loudet Foundation so that that total project of $7,600 was able to work out. The next one you see, you know, sometimes when the homeowner is able, they can put in their own money, and in that case they were able to. Next one, again, the homeowner put in a significant amount of money, and then the Loudet Foundation. That was actually one where the contractor came back and said, oh, I found this other problem, it's going to cost this much extra money. And they had already put in $3,500 of their own money, and I said, you know, you don't have to give us any more money, I can give you that additional $200. So that was really nice to have that option for them. They were really pleased. The Spring Lake Township project that was almost $18,000. That's a big project that we worked on. There's Owens Corning does it's a veterans program, and now I can't think of the name of it, but they donate all the materials when it's a veteran. And that particular homeowner is a disabled veteran, and so West Michigan Roofing did all the labor for that project for free for the roof portion, and then we were able to take our grant funds and put it into the fascia, the gutters, the soffit. And then because we had the Loudet Foundation money, he had a bathroom that had been destroyed by the bad roof. So then we took the Loudet Foundation funds and were able to get him a new bathroom that he could use again. So that was a nice combination of working with several different programs. The local Habitat was involved in that program with us. So. And then this slide is about our home purchase repair. Actually, I didn't title that slide right, so ignore that part. home grant, we were awarded a MISTA grant in October, a $160,000 grant. Again, it's about one of the biggest grants that they gave out to any one agency in Michigan, so we were thrilled to get that much. There was two components to this grant. There's the homeowner rehab component and the home purchase repair component. So the homeowner rehab, our original grant money allowed us to do two projects at $36,400 per house, and it's a deferred loan for the homeowner. 50% of the loan is forgiven at 5 years, and then at year 20, they have to pay back the other half. Both projects got very costly. The one project has $22,000 worth of lead abatement that needs to be done, and the other project has a detached garage that's a mess. So both projects were going way over budget. So I was able to talk to MISTA, and they had some recaptured funds that they're giving to us. So they're giving us a total of almost $31,000 in additional money that we're applying to those two projects. So that's very exciting. It's the first time since I started this that I've known MISTA to ever give an increase like that. So we were super excited. So not only does that increase the cost of the projects, but it also increases our revenue. So again, that was very exciting. But the first property, that's a city property. It's on Griffin, and they're going to get the total rehab from this grant, plus they're going to get another grant through the NIP program that I just talked about. So their total rehab is going to be $63,000. The other property on Slayton in the city is going to be total $44,000. We also have the two home purchase repair programs already identified. This is a 2-year grant that we expected to spread 4 projects out over 2 years. We're doing all 4 projects at exactly the same time, so that makes me very busy because it's a lot all at the same time. But it's very exciting. It's thrilling. But so the 2 projects for the home purchase repair, one they're purchasing in the city, and the other is just outside of the city in Grand Haven Township. Both of those projects get $10,000 for their down payment assistance and $20,000 in rehab. And we just got the estimates in for the second one, so they're going to get all the work that they need. And the first property, they're closing on their loan on Friday, so that's good news. So total property improvements, $147,000, and total revenue for us of $30,000. And that's all I have for the slides. That's what grants and whatnot that's going on in our department and where our money is coming from. And then I just wanted to touch on, I gave you the other short report after the Affordable Housing Task Force and the recommendations that you adopted. One of my tasks is to work on a regional housing authority and how to fund that. So that's another thing that I've been busy with, research on how to create a housing trust fund with public funding source. And you have it, you can read it, so I don't have to go through all of the details. If you have questions, I can answer them, but all I wanted to do with this is to show you that preliminary, this is what we found, this is what we're finding where, you know, there are obstacles, particular obstacles in Michigan that are making this more difficult than we initially thought, and kind of where we're going to go from here.
Okay. Well, thank you for your very thorough report. So, sounds like we're making living in well, shouldn't I say Grand Haven, but the area a lot easier for a number of people and giving them better housing. So.
Yeah, the 4 particular clients for the home grant they're all just so thrilled. Yeah, and it's exciting.
Yep.
I just want to say thank you, Rhonda. I remember when we first started out on this road many years ago, I was a very, very strong supporter of it, and I still am yet today. And you're doing such a fine job of, you know, getting out there and getting the word out and having people that really need some help. You're there for them, so keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
All right, and then, last but not least, our marina engineering report.
Good evening, everyone, again. Derek Gatis, Public Works Director. Tony McGee is here to present the next two chapters of our report for you, so you'd slowly intake this information over the last couple months. But so we're on the chapters 3 and 4, where we talk about the survey and the market study. So,
thank you very much, Derek. Tony McGee with Avonmarsh. Thank you for the time to be here with you all tonight. I'm going to focus tonight on some of the market stuff we've done with the marina study, the economic impact of the marina, as well as what we got back from the motor survey. Start with, there's a strong history and connection between this local economy here and the Grand River. It started with the fur trading days, then it went on to lumber. When lumber died out, the Merchants Association was formed, manufacturing began to form along the river, and that was the economic driver. And as that faded in the 50s, we started to see recreational boating here on the harbor. And as the manufacturing stuff faded away, recreational boating came in and became a very significant economic driver into the community. The final draft report of the engineering study we did was completed in February. Mike Morphy was here in March, did kind of the history and conditions. I'm here tonight to talk about the market and the public survey. Mike will be back on the 6th, and then we'll have a grant application ready for you should you choose in the next funding round with the State of Michigan Waterways Fund. A little bit on the market study. What we looked at is starting all the way up to Whitehall, down to Holland is kind of the market area we looked at for the marina, pegging some that we thought were good candidates against it, including Yacht Basin, Shipyard down in Holland, North Shore and Grand Isle here, Hartshorn Marina just north of here, Harbortown Point, and then the Municipal Marina up in Whitehall there. As you can see, the marinas we looked at in Whitehall was the smallest at 50 all the way up to 370 at Yacht Basin. So there's a wide range of marinas to this area that we looked at. When we're doing a market study, there are four key areas we look at. First is the slip analysis. Is what are the slips at the marina, and do they match up where the current market conditions are? The proximity of the marina, both to population basis and amenities around them. The overall condition of the marina in terms of the infrastructure, and then the amenities that are there. Is there a haul out? Is there a mechanic? Is there fueling? All those sorts of things that make a marina desirable to a user. What we found when we looked at this market area is the transient rates you're charging are comparable here to Hartshorn and White Lake in particular, which are good comparisons. In terms of facilities and amenities, what you have here is consistent with what we see in other marinas in the market area. The age and the maintenance of your facilities, like everything else, and I think I've said this before when we did the facilities assessment here in town, your marina is very well upkept. The staff does a great job. It's probably kept in the nicest shape of the marinas we looked at day to day and the service there, so they deserve a lot of credit for that, and that's noted. Location, if you think about the location of this marina and you go an hour drive in any direction, except for west obviously, but any other direction, there's a large population base we can pull into a marina here. People typically drive up to an hour to get to a boat in the marina, so you think what we capture an hour drive distance around here, it's a pretty significant population base. And then the proximity of the municipal marina here to the downtown area is very unique and it's great. So a boater can come into town, get off their boat, walk around downtown, enjoy all the things in the community, plus all the wonderful recreational amenities here in town. On the slip mix, what we're seeing, we've been seeing this for a number of years now, occupancy and demand is highest in the 35-foot and above slip range. That's really where it's gone now. That's the one area we found that the marina here is a little bit lacking, is we don't have some of those bigger slips for those 35-foot and up boats compared to some of the other marinas. Talk about some of your market advantages you have. You know, proximity to downtown, all the recreational opportunities. You think about from here, and a lot of boaters have their bikes. You can run over to Mulligan's Hollow. You can run over to Duncan Woods. You can run all over town here. You can get over to the Musical Fountain. There's just so many things you can do without needing a car when you do boat into Grand Haven, which is a strong, strong thing you have here. Disadvantage we have here is there's not enough slips for when the season demand is high. You know, when you think about it, when we go from 4th of July to Labor Day, you have more demand on your slips than you have slips available. And then also the larger vessels who do want to come in here, those 35-foot and above boats, we have a limit on those number of slips. The other areas that we have some ideas for improvements is, like I said, from July, August, you guys are packed. I mean, the marina's packed all the time through then. It's those shoulder months. What can we do to get boaters in here during those off seasons when demand's not quite as high? A couple things to think about. There's a very strong charter fleet here, we know, and a really good fishery. Can we do something where we partner with that charter fleet in the spring and in the fall when salmon fishing is really good, or say you sail in here for a day, but part of your slip includes an excursion on a local charter. So maybe we can use that as a way to draw people in. Or in the shoulder months, we talk about like a floated feast promotion, where you partner with local restaurants and you do sort of a thing where you come in and there's a discount on eating in different restaurants here in town that partner with the marina as a way to bring those people in during those shoulder months. Economic impact on the marina should not be understated. The first one here I want to talk about is an economic model created by Michigan State University, so Pat, it's got to be right. Based on they look at a lot of different things. The boaters that come into this municipal marina every year have a direct impact of $964,000 in town. That's actual spending here in the community. In addition to that, the Sea Grant Michigan has done a pretty in-depth model for the charter fishing. And the charter fishing fleet just that uses the municipal marina, we're not talking about all the state, just the one in the municipal marina, brings in another $400,000 of spending directly into the community every year. So you think about that between the charter fleet itself and the other recreational boaters, that's an economic impact of just the one-time direct spending of $1.3 million. Let's use that economic multiplier effect that dollar is going to change hands 3-4 times, let's say 4 times before it leaves the community. Your marina is having a $5 million economic impact on the local community between these two dynamics here. So it's a very strong, even though it's not fur trading still, like it originally started as an economic driver, it's still an economic driver in the community that needs to be understood as the value it brings. Some additional opportunities we identified that we're trying to figure out how do we drive more revenue in the marina to make other improvements you may want to do. The first one is personal watercraft. Some people love them, some people hate them. They have seen a significant growth. It's a growing market over the last 8 years. So it's something to consider. Can we create something in the marina area to cater to that demographic and those users to bring them in the community? Boat rentals is another thing we're starting to see. I don't know if you've seen the Freedom Boat Works as a boat club, or right down here in Saugatuck, you got the guys that do the retro boats. That's a huge opportunity where you could put another business in town as a small business that rents boats that can also bring additional people in the community to boat. And then finally, it's a boat rack operation. We're running out of land where you can build slips right now. A boat rack, we're starting to see more in these used. If you're not familiar with them, steel frame building. The boats are racked 3-4 tall. You call, you say, I'm going to be in to pick up my boat at a certain time. They come in, they lift your boat out, they put it in the water, gas it up for you, it's ready to go. That doesn't necessarily have to be something the city does. You could lease it to an operator who does it, and you work out a deal, and that generates additional revenue to put into your base marina operation. Well, the survey we put out there, and we partnered with the state of Michigan, the DNR, they put that out to everybody. This was done in May 2018. I went out to the city's website and the DNR reservation system, as I said. We got 268 respondents. Of those, 81% were from Michigan, 10% Illinois, 5% Indiana, and 5% from other states. What's amazing, you think of the 268, we do these all over the place, 97% of the respondents have actually sailed into marina and used the marina here in Grand Haven. Most respondents we heard from praise the facilities. People like boating in Grand Haven. They like coming into the community. Takeaways we got from transient, and it's both the same for transient and seasonal, which is selling. What they love the location, as I talked about. It's easy to get off your boat here, and there's so much you can do in an easy walking distance. The quality of the facility and how they're upkept, we heard that consistently throughout, that it's a really strong thing. And the proximity to other locations or other activities. So very strong responses consistently, whether it's seasonal people or boater or transient people in this area. At the end of every survey, we do open-ended questions, just what don't we capture, just for feedback. 16% of the people responded, add more slips. It tells you there's some unmet demand out there in the market. There's a perceived issue with the reservation system and slip assignments, and we've heard this at other marinas. Improve shower restroom facilities, improve Wi-Fi cable service, and mitigate wave surge issues. And we're guessing that it's reflecting the older fixed docks that are more towards, as you get to Lynn Sherwood, stay down that way there. Because once you get around that corner, you're a little more protected than any kind of wave movements coming through the harbor. Other things that were less common, enlarge, expand the dinghy dock area, relocate the fish cleaning station. I'm not sure why. I think it's a great location where it is now.
Great.
Provide bicycles for boater use, improve slip security, control public access, improve mooring along the downstream seawall, and expand parking to dedicate some parking area to people using slips there. Because some people will bring their boat in, but also say if they live in Grand Rapids, they'll bring their boat in for a few days, but then they'll drive their car over too. So they have their vehicle while they're here in town. With that, I'll turn it over to you guys for question comments. I know I went through that in a pretty expeditious manner, but I know you have a pretty full agenda tonight, so I want to give you the opportunity to ask what questions you had.
On that reservation and slip assignment, the perceived issues, that don't we go through the state of Michigan? I think that's what our major problem is with them, because They're always messed up, no matter
Yes,
what.
sir, to your point, that's why I said, we've heard this in other surveys
Yeah.
before in other
It's
marinas.
the same thing we have with, at the state park with the same thing, their reservations, it's not the best. So, okay.
It's not a city issue, that's the state reservation.
That's a state issue, just so people at home can hear that, saying
Yes,
that
yes.
it's not our problem, it's actually
Yeah, I'll
the
clarify,
state.
we hear that in several marinas when we do
Yeah.
these surveys.
Okay, thank you.
I had the same question about moving the fish cleaning station. Yeah, it's quite a structure, quite an investment. I would hate to, besides, you'd have to find another place for it. Actually, I think it's kind of nice, because, you know, when they come in with the big fish, it's kind of cool to watch them hanging there as you walk by, so.
I agree, it's a draw whenever I've been down there, when you
Right.
guys are coming out the charters. There's people just come to watch the fish get cleaned and everything, so I agree with you, I think it's in a great location where it
Right.
is. And it's pretty expensive, we're doing one in South Haven right now, and it's a $230,000 investment for a brand new one, and that's a lot of money when what you have now functions really well.
It's working well, yeah. As we keep making improvements, where's Dan? He's doing a great job. So that,
Great
Anybody else?
report.
Yeah.
I'm just reflecting, I think I've got to go back and look at the airport report, but one of the comparison questions that came up during our airport discussion was comparing how much money the airport brings into the community and how much money the marina brings into the community. And I feel like the airport number was higher than what the marina number is being shown here. And that surprises me. I don't know if, I'd love to, I guess I need to look at that, but it seems like the airport number we were given from the airport people was higher than what the marina is. So I thought your number was low, but based on that relativity, yeah.
And I've got the models, if anybody's curious to dive into those numbers and
Yeah.
see what drives, like this much is from fuel and this, you know, all these little things to drive into that number.
Yeah. It's a great number, though. I mean, there's no doubt that the marina is a huge asset to the community, and we need to do what we can as the city of Grand Haven to make sure that we're taking care of it, so we can leverage that for everybody to use. So it's great. Yeah. No, thanks for the report.
you know, I had one other question. When, you know, because you picked the municipal marina, but also North Shore, but there's 3 or 4 or 5 more marinas around. Is that, but you just focused on those 2 to get your numbers?
Yeah, they were just ones we felt were good comparisons to the
Okay.
municipal marina here, so that's why we went with those 2.
So there's no particular reason you didn't go the other ones, okay.
We felt they were good comparisons, ones we used.
So we're waiting for chapter 3 is coming up?
3 will be next, it'll be May 6th, I want to say. Mike will be back in town. Yep, May 6th, he'll be there for improvements recommended and a phasing plan for that. And then based on that, we can work with you guys to structure what you want to do moving forward, financing, grants, opportunities, all that sort of thing.
So the same thing here as with downtown, when it's busy, there's not enough parking, whether it's a boat or a car, pretty much.
So we can only fit so many more slips in here, so how do we either create other economic opportunities to create revenue for the marina,
Right.
or how do we expand those shoulder months when we're not full?
Right, yep, so, well, cool. I know it's popular to be down there, and it is absolutely gorgeous, so.
And if you can think of any other questions after tonight, just let Pat know. He'll get them to me, and I'll get you answers for anything you have.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks, guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, so now we will venture back into, our city council meeting, and we're to the consent agenda. So if Linda, if you would read that.
Sorry.
Have you done your call to the audience?
Already did it.
Oh,
We
yeah,
did that,
we
yeah.
did.
Okay.
Okay, consent agenda, this is to approve the special council meeting, executive session, special work session, and regular council meeting minutes of March 18th, 2019. Approve the bills memo in the amount of $629,976.04. Approve the amendment to the City of Grand Haven Personnel Policy Manual regarding the Paid Medical Leave Act signed into law by Governor Snyder effective March 29th. Approve the World Vision Global 6K event to be held Saturday, May 4th, 2019 from 8 o'clock a.m. to 10 o'clock a.m. Hosted by Covenant Life Church and taking place on city sidewalks, the boardwalk, and pier. Deposit a total of $302.56 from unclaimed money and lost found precious metals into the general fund. Accept a total of $20,000 in grants for the zoning ordinance update and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. Approve the only bid proposal of $29,500 for the proposed scheduled service periods of 2019 and 2020 including emergency services from Equity Marine Constructs LLC to maintain and clean the Northwest Ottawa water system, Lake Michigan North and South filtration beds, that's a mouthful, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. Accept the only bid and approve the contract services agreement with Permagreen in the amount of $38,480 for year 2019, with a 3% increase for year 2020 and 2021 to provide fertilization and weed control for the city of Grand Haven through the end of calendar year 2021, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. And accept the low bid and approve the contractor services agreement with Lakeshore Property Services in the amount of $24,410 for 2019 tree supply and planting, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents.
All right, is there a motion?
And I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on these several items on the consent agenda?
On D, are we gonna waive the $100 fee for them seeing they're not using any of our streets for World Vision, for the walk?
Yes, this is on the Covenant Life, yes, we are indeed.
Okay,
Thank you
because
for bringing that
I
up.
can't see us charging, they're just walking on the sidewalks and stuff, so.
Just like we do.
Otherwise, we have to start charging me, because I walk on the sidewalks every night. Second of all, I just want to comment a little bit on the Equity Marine Construction. They've been doing it for quite a few years for us, and it's been very successful. And it's the only bid we have, but I tell you what, they've modified a lot of different, their beams that they use out to drag across and make sure that we have good, clean water, so I'm very satisfied with them. That's it.
Oh, thank you. With our high-tech method of cleaning our infiltration beds, but it works.
It is our drinking source, and that's where we get our drinking water, and I make sure that we have it clean so it filters good through there.
Guess the only comment I'd make is I see that in the tree supply and planting service that we started including maple trees again in our new street trees. For some years, we were avoiding maple trees and oak trees just because we were trying to promote forest diversity.
That is correct. We did have a moratorium on maples. Planting last year, I think we planted 25 maples. That was the first one in about 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
Most of our maples that we're having problems with in the city are silver maples, so we're definitely not going to plant any of those. We're going with red maples. They're a really nice street tree. A lot of people want them, but because of the moratorium, we didn't plant them. But yeah, last year we did a round and we decided to do some more, just a few this year. I think we only did 15 this year.
Right, yeah, and of course, we all love maple trees, it's just that there were so many.
Right.
With some diversity in the or in the urban forest, we have a better balance against pests or diseases.
Right. Yeah, the 1,000 we did in 5 years, there were no maples, and 2 years after that. So we have 1,200 trees approximately that we planted that weren't maples. So
Okay.
we put a pretty big dent in the
All right.
population.
Fair enough, I just wanted to make that observation that after all these years, we are putting some back. We still gotta watch that, make sure we encourage that diversity.
No more maples.
Question I had was for Pat on item H, with Permagreen. I think given the history of bids for fertilizing there's previously in prior years there have been a lot of competition for that job. It seems like I'm a little surprised that there's only one this time. Any thoughts on whether we're getting a good price on that? Is that compared to the previous year, or?
Well, Dan, you again.
Or Dan? Yeah.
Looks like a 3% increase.
This year's bid was actually about $2,000 less than last year, and that's why I asked for the extension for 2 more years. Because even after the 2 years, I think we're still under what last year's bid was. Yes, it had been competitive.
Yeah.
I don't know why we didn't get more bids this year. It was out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But Permagreen has been great. They've been our contractor since '08. They work great with our staff. They're quick on it when we have problems. So, I have no hesitation in recommending them.
Awesome. That's all I got.
All right.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you. If there's no other comments, or if there are other comments?
All I can say is I'm a connoisseur of the parks anyway, so I'm out in them, so they always look nice and green, and they look good. So, I enjoy them.
Absolutely. So I think we're ready to vote.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruegger?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. At this point, I'll open the public hearing to receive input regarding a new off-premises tasting room license for Long Road Distillery LLC at 18 Washington Avenue. Does anybody here want to comment on that?
Hi, friends. John O'Connor, Long Road Distillers. Thank you again for the opportunity to join your meeting this evening. And yeah, we're excited about the opportunity to take over and own a building in your fine city at 18 Washington. We've been here 5, 6 meetings in a row. I think let me get my name on a spot over here.
There you go.
This keeps up. But yeah, we're very excited about the opportunity to have the chance to own a building, to call our own, to make do with it what we hope is going to be a very successful endeavor in your fine city. And so yeah, I'll be around to answer any questions you might have in the event you have some.
All right. Thanks very much, John. Anybody else like to comment? If not, I will close the public hearing and ask Linda to read the agenda item and with the changes that we were talking about earlier.
This is to repeal approval of an off-premises tasting room license for Long Road Distillers at 102 Washington. Approve an off-premises tasting room license to Michigan Liquor Control Commission for Long Road Distillers at 18 Washington Avenue, provided assurances are in place to secure loan payments to the Economic Development Commission and the Main Street Downtown Development Authority, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The Main Street Downtown Development Authority and the administration recommend approval.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Okay. Any comments or questions for Pat or the Long Road folks?
Pat, we have a significant amount of money that they owe, that facility owes us.
That's what we just added on.
I understand that. I understand. But we have nothing in concrete. We have nothing before us to look at. And my question is, did they sign an agreement with them already? And if they did, it doesn't include us, right?
Right, just to be very clear, the Long Road Distillers do not owe us anything.
Right,
It's the owner of the building that they're going into. And just today, after the concerns were brought up about confusion about how the proposed approval of a liquor license could somehow impact the property's ability to pay us back somehow, recognizing that there's a good deal of uncertainty about that, I talked to the owners and they said they would be willing to work with us and sign a document transferring responsibility for that debt. I'm confident that it will be in writing and secured, and after that security occurs, then the mayor and city clerk could sign the documentation to go to the Liquor Control Commission so that they can get their application in process, so they can get open this spring. So I'm confident, right now we don't have that agreement because it hasn't been drafted yet. It was late this afternoon that the owners were able to talk to me and suggest that they would be willing to make that security available. They understood that there's some uncertainty about that. And so rather than have it get delayed tonight, they agreed that they would enter into an agreement with the city to solidify that security. And it's in everybody's best interest because it's a mortgage that's outstanding that gets cleaned up and taken care of as a part of this whole transfer and transaction, and I think it works well for everybody.
I understand that, but we still have no agreement with that. We have a verbal, but we have nothing concrete in there yet. And I would like to postpone this until the next meeting, until we get something in writing we can look at.
Isn't our approval of this conditioned upon the execution of that document?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We wouldn't seek the mayor's and clerk's signatures until we got that agreement
Okay.
in hand.
Okay, all right,
I think you're covered then.
Yeah.
Okay, if that covers it, okay.
And I guess my question would just be, I've heard it from you, I'd love to hear from Long Road. This proposed agreement, is that acceptable to you guys? It could be a yes or no, as simple as that.
We're purchasing a building. We've bought lots of buildings in our life. We understand the complexities of commercial commercial real estate. There is an outstanding mortgage obligation on said property, there's an obligation to pay that agreement. If whether it gets paid by us or the seller of the building, there's still an obligation to pay that, or the city has the mechanism, as any lien holder would, to go after that debt. So I think even whether or not we come to an agreement with the city, that there is an obligation to repay that debt, which you still have, even if we decided to lease the property, that obligation still exists and still would be obliged to be paid. I think we're, in fact, taking upon, again, additional liability, but we're willing to do that because we're trying to be in your community, and we've been here 5 meetings in a row trying to be in your community, and we continue to take on more liability and circumstances to try to be in Grand Haven. So, yes, we're going to figure this out, but again, in order to proceed, I need approval from the state of Michigan, and so I need to be able to make that application to the Michigan Liquor Control to go forward with my application. And so part of the provision of consummating this whole thing is I need to have the ability to know that I can move forward so that I can consummate that deal.
Okay, so this is to apply for the Michigan Liquor Control Commission for a license. And our side issue is the agreements that we make and the details of that agreement are secondary, are separate, not, because this is for the license.
So Pat, when this loan was made, did this take a form of a lien on the property, or was it more of a business loan? Exactly what was the security on this loan?
There are 2 loans and there are 2 mortgages.
And they are
registered, so it is a lien on the property.
There's a lien on the property, and so for the property to transfer, that would go with the property, or would have to be settled at the time of the sale. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it's really not our issue. It has to be taken care of at the time the property is transferred. We would have to get our money one way or the other, because this isn't going to go away. It doesn't just disappear just because the property is sold. So I don't really see, I don't see it as being an insurmountable problem to conditionally approve this, saying that we're going to get this thing straightened out in writing, because it's effectively goes with the land. So whether or not, that's really between the buyer and seller, how they sort that out.
Correct.
The lien goes on the property, okay? Who gets the payments first? Where, I mean, there's more than one person that's owed money to on this property. So who would be the first to be paid off, or who would get the first?
Who's in first position?
Yes.
That's a good question, and I'm not confident in the answer, but I believe that the obligations on the property, there is another mortgage ahead of the mortgages that we have.
Ahead of ours?
Yes. But we still have these mortgages on record, and as John stated, they're going to get taken care of one way or the other eventually, and they're out there, and they're not going away. But I don't know who all the creditors might be and who's going to get paid in what order, but the new owners have committed to agree to make payments on these loans, and that's a big positive for the city. And really, it's not the city general fund, it's more your Economic Development Corporation, who made the one loan, and the other is the Main Street Downtown Development Authority, who made the other loan. So they're 2 separate authorities from the city. Our obligation under this was just to be the collector. When this all transpired 19 years ago, the city agreed, well, we'll follow up and continue to collect the payments, and that's what we've done, and we've maintained a close relationship with the owner, keeping in touch and making sure they're aware of what the outstanding obligations have been. And when these guys let me know that they were looking at this property, we let them know right away. There was this outstanding loan, and they knew about it. The seller had already disclosed it. So, this is, when I talked to Jim Bonney about it this afternoon, your finance director, he was very enthusiastic that this would be a really good option for the city to see a new owner go in there, start up a new business, and begin making payments on those loans. And I really do feel like we'll get these loans settled. The thing that I think is very positive about this outcome, everybody's right, they're out there and they're a nuisance. and there's something that I think it's in everybody's best interest to get them taken care of and discharged. So we'll set a very clear plan with clear payment schedule that is affordable and doable for everybody, and I'll be able to report back at your next meeting exactly what that looks like and that everybody's agreed to it, and those payments will start coming in and that principal will start going down.
Okay, if they have a signed agreement already with their land contract that don't include those payments, so they're gonna have to add more, they're gonna have to add another payment to pay off the loan?
I don't think it'll impact that overall agreement. They've already got a land contract. The land contract recognizes that the seller may have mortgages or may enter into future mortgages, but they're going to be recognized and known to the buyer, and they have to be made known to the buyer because they're an encumbrance on that title. So yeah, I believe this is a good way to go and a good way to get it all worked out. And I would suggest that tonight, should you approve this and we move forward with this, tomorrow we'll be in us, the current owner of the pavilion, the buyer of the pavilion will all be in a better position than we were yesterday. We'll be moving in a very positive direction for everybody. In a very agreeable way, too. I don't know that there'll be any disagreements among the parties.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the reason just to clarify why I voted no on the change originally with the agenda item, is things like this coming up last minute muddy the waters and make it a little challenging to process all the information coming at me in particular. That's one. Secondly, similar to what Bob's comments were, this is from my limited real estate experience, this is an issue between a buyer and a seller, and the city is a third party. And for us to put a contingency on approving a liquor license, dealing with an issue that we're involved in, but this isn't the way it's normally done, it's very unsettling to me. I really would normally not approve of it one way or at all. However, that's why I wanted to hear specifically from the representatives from Long Road that they were okay with this. So I want to double back and applaud them once again for stepping up for, I mean, you guys are practically my heroes at this point, because this is something you don't even have to do, and you're doing it legally. So I thank you. I hope the city manager works very generously with you on these payment plans or whatever comes up at the end here, because this is above and beyond once again. So, thank you, John.
Oh, if you don't mind me, and I just want to say what the seller of the pavilion has really stepped up in our moment of difficulty in trying to establish ourselves as a business in your community. She's been here with her family, running a business in the city of Grand Haven for a long time.
Yes.
And anyone who's been a small business owner knows that sometimes there's ups and sometimes there's downs, and it's not always easy. But through her kindness and her heart and her care for her family, she's really stepped up and given us an opportunity as a way to join your community and a way for her to gracefully take care of some concerns in her family. And so that means the world to us as a small business. And we want to do the best that we can as a hopeful new member of your community to thank her and her family for the hard work that they've put into this for a long time. And while she might owe the city of Grand Haven DDA of, several $1,000s, we want to make sure that gets taken care of. We're stand-up guys, and we're men of our word, and we're going to do the right thing. And we're trying to give you guys the chance to do the right thing. And so just because there's a little bit of money outstanding to a DDA authority, that's not the end of this conversation. Where, again, I'm standing up here airing things that shouldn't be privy to this conversation, but we're doing it, and I'm doing it with the camera on. And so we want to be here. Give us the chance to do the right thing.
Bottom line is that, we need, these are concerns that we have, and I think we've addressed them, and we're getting assurances that they're going to be taken care of. But there is outstanding conditions attached to this particular property, and we just want to make sure that all obligations are met in one way or another. And I think that's part of our due diligence to make sure that these things get taken care of. So we appreciate you being here and continuing the search for just the right property. But we also have to do our due diligence and make sure that these things are taken care of. So it's sometimes these things are neat and tidy, and sometimes they're not, and, but it's still, we have to do our job, so. on that.
I just want to tell them thank you again. I know the difficulties you guys have gone through. I know the previous place you're at. I know the guy you had to deal with there. I know a whole lot more than I think a lot of people know. But I gotta say thank you again, and I'm ready to vote.
And I will echo Mike's sentiments.
Let's vote again.
All right, Linda, I think we are ready to vote.
Fritz?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Bruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes.
I don't leave yet, because we have to get you off the hook on the other one, right? We have to vote to remove the...
No, it's
Well,
part of
that's
that
all-
motion.
It's all part of the
One big
motion.
package.
Yeah, right,
Put a bow on it.
That was a very part of the first part of the motion.
Beautiful, all right.
Repeal.
Pay attention.
Deep in thought.
Okay. Our item B in new business then.
First item is to award the low bid for the 2019 sewer rehabilitation project to Instuform Technologies in the not-to-exceed amount of $596,246.50. The administration recommends approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, and Matt and Friend are coming up.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Matt Wade. I'm the Streets and Utilities Manager, Public Works. Tonight I am seeking approval for the sewer rehab project. It's going to be a cured-in-place sewer lining project. It's one that we've been planning for a couple of years now, budgeted for. For those of you that may not know, cured-in-place sewer lining is a way to line sewers without digging up or excavating the roads. It's a significant cost savings to lining sewers. We opened a total of 3 bids with Instuform Technologies submitting the low bid of $30,000, which was nearly $175,000 under budget. We also included with Avonmarsh's recommendation a supplementary bid for the chance of any extensive extensive root cutting, sewer cleaning that may arise during the project. And because the bid came in significantly low, we are recommending approval with that supplementary bid, which totals $596,246.
All right. Anybody have questions?
No, we've done the cured before on some of our lines that we've done in town here. I think we just did when we first started out behind Sheldon. I think there's an extension there. We did some in there, and we also did some down the highway, if I remember correctly. And are these the same guys we used before, if I remember right, or not?
I wasn't a part of the first project, so I do not know.
Because I know they did a fantastic job. It all works.
Instuform's been around for many years, and they practically invented the product, so they're very familiar with what they're doing.
Yeah. I'm very much into it. I think it's a good way of extending the life of our existing instead of having to dig up and replace. This is the best way to go.
Have these all been televised, Matt?
What's that?
Have these sewers that you want to do, are they all been televised?
Yes.
Okay, so we know there's no existing problems that we can't deal with then?
Correct, and we do know of a few existing problems, which I think there are 2 or 3 items for subcontractors to come in, such as plumbers, to come in and repair in the pipe before it's lined. So there are a few issues, but they're not too big that we can't take care of them before the sewer's lined.
Okay, do they have to be dug up, or can they do it from the inside?
Plumbers does the same way. They go inside and repair
Okay,
prior to.
all right, okay.
And that's included in these numbers.
Correct.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in here, so if they have to do spot repairs, then we've got that covered.
Correct.
Yeah, this process doesn't solve all problems, but it sure is an economical way of dealing with most of them. So look a deal.
Look good to me.
Yeah, it's not kicking the can down the road, it's actually fixing it, so extending the life of it.
Right. Whole lot better than digging them all up. Anything else? Otherwise, we will vote. I think we're good to go.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Ruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes. Thanks, Matt. Next item.
Next item is to approve proposed improvements to the Sunken Gardens area of the Lake Forest Cemetery as proposed by Mr. Larry Kieft and supported by the Cemetery Board. The Cemetery Board, do I have administration? Oh, the Cemetery Board recommends approval.
All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second? So at least we can,
Hold on.
okay, we will discuss. Derek is here.
Derek Gates, Public Works Director. Yes, so Mr. Keith has offered to pay for the improvement at the cemetery as outlined in the packet, and is it bright enough?
It's a little toned down, actually.
Okay, well,
Should save that move for another day, but.
Sorry, Your Honor.
I like your shirt, Derek.
He says my shirt's not bright enough.
Yeah,
His
we like
sunglasses
your
aren't.
shirt.
Oh,
We like your
oh,
shirt,
it's,
yeah.
So, however, that's been tradition to bring back to the council for its approval any healthy tree removal within the city right-of-way or around city property. So these are 8 healthy trees that are being proposed to be removed, and new grass planted along the hill with a retaining wall at the bottom. Feels that that we can stabilize part of that hill with some trimming, or at least attempt to over the next year or two, and see if we can stabilize that as an option proposal.
yeah, it seemed, you know, I visited the site, and I can see where there is some erosion activity, you know, up on top. But doing the whole project seemed like taking out all those trees, taking out all the leaves and debris off the hill seemed like a huge undertaking with questionable results. So if we could do something on top, I think that might solve our problem, or go a long way to address our problem on that area. So I don't know if we have to reword anything here in order to, well, I think discussion about other ideas about this proposal as it was presented.
My problem with it is, somebody comes and they, you know, I mean, they look at a problem that we have, and they come up with a solution for it, and they're willing to go ahead and give us the money for that solution. But you know, that's not usually the way we do business. What we usually do is if they want to, you know, if they want something solved like that, or if they come and they're willing to donate money for it and work with you or a contractor or whatever else, and we all get involved in the thing, and we get some options how we're going to do it. But this is just somebody that comes in here and says, this is what we want, this is what I want to do, and we're just supposed to rubber stamp it, and I'm uncomfortable doing that. I mean, we had a contractor with the marina, you know, and we did that. But they worked with us back and forth, and there's no back and forth with this at all. This is a proposal that he made that, and I appreciate that the fact that he's willing to come forward with that. But this is not how we do business. This is not, you know. I have a hard time with this, and then, you know, I don't know. I think this is the wrong concept. I think we're setting a precedence here that we probably shouldn't set. I think just to come and say this is the way I want to do it, and this, you know, I have a hard time with that. So unless somebody else convinces me different, I think I'm going to vote no on this.
So Mr. Keefe came up with this proposal, and was he rigid about this proposal? Was he open to alternative proposals or alterations of his proposal? Have we had a conversation with him? And we're seeing it for the first time in this agenda item. Cemetery board had some discussion, I assume Mr. Kieft was there.
The
So
cemetery,
maybe you can give us some more of the backstory on this as to how we came to this proposal and how rigid this proposal is. I mean, I went out and visited the site also. I see there's one tree leaning on some others, there's some deadfall there, there's, you know, the hill is very, very steep, so it may need some work. And I read in our enclosure what Dan had suggested as well, and that seems logical as well. So I guess that what we're interested in is if there's a problem, we certainly like to solve problems, and if there's a donor willing to help with that, it's hard to say no. On the other hand, we want to have the best solution.
Dan Vivian he's our liaison to the cemetery board. He'd be more apt to tell you the exact details of how we got to this point. By the time it got to me, yeah, this was a pretty rigid presentation that he wanted to do this. So, Dan, if you want to add to that.
The cemetery board was somewhat in favor of it. I don't know if they were necessarily super enthused about it, but their thought I think was more of somebody's willing to donate this amount of money to make an improvement. There were some reservations about taking all those trees out, and that sunken gardens area, we expanded that, and a lot of the lots were sold because of the trees down in that it's kind of like a natural setting. It's just a little cove, very, very covered with a lot of trees in the summertime. A lot of the people that bought those bought them for that reason.
And I'm typically not in favor of taking down healthy trees unless there's a good demonstrable reason to do so, and I don't, like I say, I saw one tree leaning on others. Other than that, everything appeared to be pretty well rooted in the hillside.
Yeah,
So it's not something I go into lightly either.
I'm sorry?
It's not something I would go into lightly either.
No, not taking out that amount of trees, especially on that steep of a bank. And Earl Jorgensen, the grounds crew leader, and I have talked about this extensively, and he feels that given a little bit of time, it'll take some trial and error with how much of the trees at the top we have to trim up to get some sunlight in there, top dress that, bring that grade up around some of that washout area and get some grass to establish. But he doesn't feel that it's something he can't do.
So is there any portion of this plan which you think is worth doing, such as the retaining wall down low?
The retaining wall,
Just
personally,
say
I
what
don't
you
think
think.
it fits the character of the cemetery. So but that's my personal opinion.
I mean, I'm looking.
But it will help stabilize that hill on the bottom. Mr. Keefe brought up, there is some washout that we get. His graves are all the way at the top, so there's some washout off of that hill that we get just naturally occurring the way a hill that steep does. So yes, you would stop that. There would be plantings at the top of it. It would definitely, be there for a long time, I'm sure.
Well, I'm trying to separate who the applicant is, just from the general way that, in my view of how a cemetery runs, and when you select a plot or a family member selects a plot, you're like a better word, you're buying into an environment, a location, presentation, a way things are done, an appearance that's there already.
You're absolutely correct.
These are pretty mature trees, and I don't think this is a new problem by the sound of it. And I guess if
well, it is a new section. I mean, it's only, I think that section might be 6 or 7 years old.
Okay.
So some of the washout that we're getting down, it's not significant, to where it's causing problems. It is a little bit harder to get grass to grow in that back side of it because it is fairly shaded.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and what I'm hearing between that and cutting down however many mature trees, as the option were, I'm not in favor of that. I think it sounds like there's some other happy medium, things that we can do to stabilize that dune without such a drastic measure. And then I'm concerned about the precedence that sets. Next person comes in and it's gonna be very drastic here, likes the color pink and wants to spray paint a tree pink, and so they're willing to pay for it, so hey, why not? Well, no, sorry, we don't want that. It's a terrible example, but I think we set kind of a precedent when we open up an opportunity like this for one individual, whoever it may be, to say that they want a particular gravesite to look a particular way, and that has an impact on the surrounding 10, 15, 20 different gravesites that are there. So I'm uncomfortable that I won't be voting in favor of it.
I go there quite a bit, because one of the residents down there is my in-laws. And I go up there and I've been checking that since he made the proposal, I looked a little bit closer to the top of the hill. And if you look at how the grade of the road goes, it's really not that much wash off right now. If you go, when I get done with this, I'll tell you other spots that are a lot worse. But if you go in there and you see the road and it comes around where the guardrail is, all that is sloping toward the other way. And when it comes in, the asphalt comes back in, so the water runs off down that slope then. If somehow or another we could get some kind of retainer so that water doesn't slide down there, you probably have very little, if anything, with the tree cover over top, with the rain and that, and plus the water not washing off the roadway down there, you would actually maintain the hillside much better.
Yeah, once we get it built up and get some grass to
Yeah,
establish, we'll slow
especially
down.
the road. If you see how the road is, it comes in, it's slanted this way, and then when it comes around that curve, it slants down the opposite. So the water runs down that back hill. Back in the day, it didn't have the grave sites down there, so when they put the road in, the angle is different. But now we have grave sites down there and a possibility of maybe a lot of runoff, but it's not a whole lot. I've been there in a rainy day. I sat out there yesterday in the rain, I went in the rain, so make sure, and that's what I seen there. If you want to see a really bad a bad hillside coming down, you come straight in, you go to the right, you just keep going all the way around to that back corner, and right over there, you'll see where that hillside is actually pushing the grave sites. There's the one I would say would need more work than anything else. I mean, it's tipping those big stones back in that corner. But the one that he's proposing here, there's ground cover we can put down that would grow in the shade. There's ground cover you can put down where animals won't eat and still grow in the shade, and it would stabilize the hill. There's different things you can do. If you talk around, you can find some you can put in there to help stabilize, just better than what it is. But I'm not in favor of this proposal because you're absolutely correct. It doesn't fit. What we have is called lake forest, and it's like building a condo. You put that big brick wall, you're like building a condo in the middle of a forest, and it just doesn't fit in. So I'm not in favor of it, only because I think I think staff can do some minor adjustments and end up having a good result at the very end. So I have trust in you guys. I mean,
thank you.
That's what we hire you guys for. So thank you.
So what do we need to do with this? Do we vote this down and then direct staff to address the runoff area? Do we need a different motion? How do we want to proceed with this, I guess is my question.
Just vote.
I think that they
understand.
They know what their job is.
Right.
My boss will tell me what to do, and
All right. Do it.
He's smiling.
Okay.
He's smiling behind you, so you're doing
Well,
good.
You can hardly see him back there.
Yeah, no, and
the glow.
The reason I see there are definite problems with it at the top of the hill here, and one of the headstones is it's washing out from underneath, so it definitely needs to be tended to and built up, but that's just, it's what we do, so we don't need to do anything else except vote on this particular proposal the way it is, right? And then you guys will take it from there.
And in that vein, as you recognize, there are problems. It is kind of inherently a problem having a steep slope like this and basically a sand dune. And the fact that we had a resident who wanted to do something about it, I think is commendable. And if we don't want to go that direction, we know that we need to do something. And I wouldn't want to discourage people from coming forward with ideas, proposals, especially when they're willing to put their money where their mouth is. this may not be the right proposal. Like I say, I don't like the idea of taking down healthy trees. Whether or not there's better ways to stabilize the hill, I guess you guys can come back to us and tell us what you would rather do. I know you've written in your memo what you think the immediate step should be. So let's go with that. But I don't think we need anything separate from us to tell you how to do that, other than don't let the hill fall down.
So, but, you know, and for that, you know, I appreciate that Larry brought this whole thing forward so that we would focus on it, because it is something that needs to be addressed, and without that, we might not have done anything about it. But I think at this point, we can do much simpler fixes than the extensive thing that's been proposed to us, so good for all of that.
And maybe you can get do a survey of there and see if there's other areas like Mike was talking about that are washing away that we can fix up also. So, and it's a good thing Larry did bring this up, and so we can address some of these issues. But I think we can handle it in-house, and if you can always get in a consulting firm if you need one or whatever, and do it that way. But I would just as soon let you guys handle it.
We got the message. We'll work with Mr. Keith. Maybe there's another wall that he'd like to reconstruct inside the cemetery. And,
there are other walls out there that need attention.
Well, yes.
Or if you would like to help with the restoration of the hill,
Right.
through your direction, that would be considerable also.
Yeah, it's not like there are no retaining walls in the cemetery. There certainly are. So it's not an alien. That's not an alien element out there.
No.
All right, thanks very much. So we need a vote on this.
Bruger?
No.
Scott?
No.
Fritz?
No.
Vanessa?
No.
McCaleb?
No. And, Derek, don't go far. Next item.
Next item is to support a public works monument to be gifted to the city and placed in a prominent place near the city's waterfront to honor public works servants that service our nation's communities by keeping them safe and maintaining each one's vibrancy. The administration recommends approval.
Okay, we need a motion?
So moved.
And support?
Moved and support. All right.
Very nice. Well, this is a brainchild of someone else that's in this room that I've taken and ran with. So I'm not going to claim credit for the underlying thought. However, once I heard it, this is fantastic. So we've vetted this opportunity with another organization, the American Public Works Association, the Midwest Michigan chapter, to see if they would support such a venture, and they were ecstatic to do it, get behind it, and form committees and fundraising to put it somewhere in Grand Haven. So, the overall idea is, again, to honor all those that work hard and do in public works and make our cities great. So some of the examples that I had in my slideshow here are just ideas. We not necessarily selecting an idea. We want to select an artist and a location, and of course have some preliminary drawings or renderings, if you will, and brought back to you for acceptance, and then maybe a fundraising goal from there. But some are interactive. We have opportunities in our city that need seats and viewing places. So some of them are just statues of bronze that
That's my favorite.
some of them we don't know where they're at, but they kind of look cute. So I actually visited this park last September, and I missed the statue. I found it on the internet. I'm like, how did I miss that?
You're having Miller beers.
I came in the other side of the stadium is what I found out. I didn't go all the way around the other
Miller
side.
Park.
No,
Yeah,
no.
I was always in the Harley section.
So, there's just, I think there's an opportunity that we can create
I like that one.
a place that is that honor. So, and there are all different types of mediums that we could use. So, but where? Somewhere down there. We'll figure it out, and I think you'd be happy with a location and a monument. So, We've actually got already people that want to participate eagerly into it, so I'd like the resolution tonight to be approved so that we can start this and start some fundraising, and if you all want to be on the committee, I'll take you. But yeah, local municipalities, I don't know how many we'll get out of those, but there's a lot of contractors and suppliers and professionals that I'm sure would be donating. So, you know, how we select an artist. We'll have a committee that does that. I mean, I'm all for a local artist, but maybe there isn't one that has an interest in that. So just keeping an open mind into that. So the Midwest branch supported it. The state branch is another possibility. Of course, we're coming tonight for your support. And then if we receive your support and resolution, organizing 2 committees, a funding and a design committee. Questions?
Oh, that was when we went to Lansing for the Capitol Conference. That was your fame has spread far and wide, because I can't remember, I'm trying to remember which organization I was talking to, and they said, we really want Derek to build that Public Works monument. What a great idea that is. So they got a vote of enthusiasm from the guys in Lansing. So.
Well, I have one visitor here tonight. He's actually a member of the Midwest branch, the APWA. John Gorney is his name. He is actually the Public Works Director of the city of Kentwood.
Oh, okay.
Actually, one of my mentors. So.
I wasn't expecting to speak to this evening, but it's a pleasure to be here. As Derek mentioned, I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Kentwood. I've been a member of the American Public Works Association for a very long time and serving on the board. When Derek brought this idea to us, we're extremely excited to bring this to Michigan, to West Michigan, and I believe on behalf of the board we speak as a unanimous decision that Grand Haven is the ideal location for this. So we really look forward to your support in this endeavor. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You won't have to ask me twice.
And I think we could probably find a place for it along the boardwalk there somewhere.
Yeah.
So if anybody thinks that that's not a good location, they should speak now before we go any farther down the road.
Well, there's a lot of waterfront. I guess it depends on what spot you're thinking of. Do you have a spot in mind, or is it, you showed us the entire waterfront in this map here?
Yeah, it could be that big. No, I'm just kidding.
And I guess,
we could rebuild Harbor Drive the rest of the way that hasn't been rebuilt and called a monument. But there's some smaller spots. Actually, one of them that could be a potential is where the Holly turnaround was, but it's on state property. Maybe we can get the state to buy in on that as well. If it was depending on the medium or the size, that could be down towards the stadium or somewhere by Centennial Park. I think there's some areas that we could take advantage of.
Well, I go into something like this with a healthy dose of skepticism, so bear with me. We don't have any particular guidance here as to how large this would be, or quite where it would be, or we have no idea what it would look like, or any of these things. It's just, we'll put up a monument somewhere, funded somehow, and then we're asked to support that. Well, in principle, sure, that sounds like an easy one to support. And I asked Pat to share with us what the exact verbiage of a resolution would be, and he gave that to us, and it looks pretty innocuous and non-committal, so I guess I don't have any real problem supporting this, but I would like to be clear that from my perspective, this is something that needs to be paid for by donations and other money than the city's general fund, plus it needs to have a maintenance fund to go with it. Plus it needs to be scaled appropriately so that it's not the biggest thing in town, or it shouldn't become the most prominent feature in town. It should be one of many. I think that public art is a great thing to have in town, and that monuments are great. So I don't really have a problem with all that. I'm just a little concerned about this taking on a life of its own and becoming something that we hadn't intended. So while I'm willing to support the principle of it in concept, I guess there's an awful lot of detail that isn't here. I mean, I kind of start with why Grand Haven? Why did we become the epicenter of public works? And the whole national monument it should be here. I mean, yeah, we think this is a pretty special place too. It just seems a little bit over the top. So, in principle, I particularly like this slide that appears to be the Chinese Red Army. I'm not sure what this is. Hopefully, that's not what you had in mind.
No.
Maybe the guy climbing out of the sewer is more appropriate, but.
Right.
My favorite.
Yeah, that's a good one. So something of that scale, I think, would be great. Something the three guys here at Miller Park, something like that looks good. But something that turns into half a block of monument might not be what we're looking for.
We want it to be something that's attractive, that doesn't take away from any of the aspects of Grand Haven. So, by all means, it's not going to be the largest thing in town, but it'll be something.
And it might not be the last one too, because once people decide this is the city of monuments, we might have lots of them.
Well, you know, when I think about this, what comes to mind is the Boy Scout monument.
Exactly, I was thinking of that as well.
And that's, very appropriate, and I'm very glad that we have that in the city, so.
And that's an excellent scale for it as well.
Yeah.
The Mackenzie Scout, that's something like that. I was thinking that would be very nice, but that might be smaller than you had in mind. I don't know what you had in mind.
That's the thing. I don't really have anything. I want to go open-minded to be able to let the community and the committees and you guys eventually vote on what that will be. Obviously, once that comes, the details will come to you first. So.
Well, this is what artists do.
Yep. Once you form the committee and they can decide on shapes and sizes, maybe they'll have multiple different ones and that. I'm sure they'll do that. That's what you normally do when it comes to sculpturing of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find an artist that, after that, you pick the one, you find an artist that goes along with it. So I think this is pretty good. I'm all for it. But there's, like Bob says, there's still a little skepticism, but you got to wait and see. You don't know how big, whatever, but we direct you now saying we don't want it to be the largest thing standing on this side of the state because, the water's high enough as it is now, and if you put something big down, we don't want the ground to go down any lower, so we have more water. We have enough water.
We'll be rebuilding the marina quicker than you.
Yes, but the concept of it, I think this is great. I mean, I like the guy with, like you said, coming out of the sewer there, but I think if they put the picture of Denny on there,
I think Denny ought to
feel like he's at home. He'll be at home. That's where he was. He was in the sewers all this time. We worked for you, so.
He looks like a happy man.
He looks like he's
asleep. I like the one with working on the water main. I mean, with all the water trouble we have in Michigan right now. I mean, that's a classic.
That's my second favorite.
We'll leave it up to the artists what they come up with, but these are pretty funny to look at. So it's nice.
What Dan was enthused when I told him about this last week and having another artifact in the city. He said, "Well, don't worry, we're gonna have a perpetual care fund to go along with it." So
that is highly recommended.
All right.
Absolutely. Especially under our new rules that we have for gifts and that, you want to have that kind of set up for it. So
I haven't said anything, and I was supposed to say I like the idea. I think, Pat, Derek, this is the right approach. Get some general consensus and approval with step one, which is exactly what this is, and we'll see where it goes. I think, we're a little ways ahead, or this is further down the road, the decision on it, but I could see very much as a nod to our public works employees, the city general fund chipping in or helping with some fundraising and some matching funds and stuff like that. I think you guys do a dynamite job, and I want to applaud your efforts, and thank you for coming down tonight as well. And I think this would be a great addition to our community. And you guys do things tastefully. We do things tastefully. We like to think we do, at least in Grand Haven. So I have no doubt that this will be done well.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes forward from it.
I'd like to add to that is that we always have our public works little shoot off in the spring. We have something like that. That's where we could organize it around that. So we have our hot dogs and brats and that to get kickoff for public works.
That could be the monument.
That
a grill.
That'd be
grill with hot dogs.
That's what I mean. I'm all for it. So I'm all for saying thank you to them. So that's a good thing. So it might be a good idea in the long run.
We even probably have some old pipe that we could incorporate into the.
If not, we're digging some more up, we'll have a whole lot for no.
That's,
We have to, no.
that's right, it'll be authentic.
Oh, well, I'm ready to move forward.
All right. Thanks, Derek. Well, I guess we need to vote.
Yeah, all right.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruger?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. All right, next item.
Item is under unfinished business, and this is to approve a final resolution to establish a new section 40-331 of the zoning ordinance prohibiting recreational marijuana establishments in all zoning districts. The planning commission recommends denial, and the administration recommends approval.
All right, is there a motion?
Moved.
Is there a second? All right, moved and seconded. This is second reading. What we did a couple of weeks ago to prohibit recreational marijuana in all zoning districts in the city of Grand Haven. Any comments?
Well, I'll just make one comment. I don't believe anything has changed since our last vote.
Right.
And I'll just comment, I was at the Capitol Conference, as were we all, and I had an opportunity to sit with Colleen Brown, who's the mayor of the city of Montrose. She was telling me how, and this precedes the recreational marijuana issue, they had an issue in her town of a entrepreneur, developer wanted to come in and set up a medical marijuana facility under the new medical marijuana laws in an abandoned area of an industrial park in her city. And her city council had said no, even though it wasn't unanimous, but their council said no to that. And she was in favor of it because it was an opportunity to basically reclaim some abandoned land and get some economic activity. So her council said no, so the people in that town circulated a petition and overwhelmingly approved it and overrode their council. So that was kind of democracy in operation. That was an opportunity for the people to say that they didn't agree with the council's action, that they, by write a petition, they overrode it and it became law. Oh, by the time the voters approved it, the opportunity had passed. This person had moved on to another community, and so they didn't get that anymore. And so, like I say, they lost that opportunity. But the real point of that was that there was an opportunity for the people of that community to overrule their council and say, no, this would have been an acceptable decision. And it's not necessarily a slam on their council. People like councils for reasons of relationship, trust, for a variety of reasons, but the people didn't agree with that one. I think that sort of democracy in action is important. I think it has its place. And I think, as I said last time, based on my reading of the Zoning Enabling Act of 2006, that's not an option when you prohibit it through your zoning ordinance. Zoning in cities and villages may only be challenged by a protest petition. If you're in a township or in a county zoning, you could have a petition, you could overturn a zoning decision, but not in a city. So I think that's the real reason we're doing this, is to make this petition proof. I don't think that's the right approach. And so I continue to oppose this. I think that what we did prohibit was appropriate because we did it for reasons of prudence. It wasn't necessarily a forever vote, but it was something that bought us time to get everything in order, squared away, ready to go, or we might decide to never go there. But at least we had that opportunity, and the people still had opportunity under the act, under the new act, to overrule us if they so chose. I think that, like I say, I think this is an effort to subvert that. So I'm voting no.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, I'm gonna vote no again.
Again?
Right? Did I vote no the first time?
I don't think so, but you're welcome to.
Well, yes.
Oh, I voted, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm gonna vote yes again. I'm getting tired.
I'll invite you to.
Well, you can vote no, I don't mind.
I would invite you to vote no.
Yeah, right, thanks.
Listen to the people.
Yeah. Yeah, I just got done with 3 days on the road, so I am a little bit tired. I am, voting yes on this. Because, in part, a good ordinance is going to go through a good process and be vetted. with public hearings, and the Planning Commission is going to look over an ordinance, a proposed ordinance, whatever it may be, and say, yep, you know what, we're going to approve it in certain districts, we're not going to approve a use in these districts. We're going to put stipulations on it saying proximity to schools is important to us, proximity to at-risk populations is important to us, and as this is written or not written here, there's no rules, there's no proximity concerns to our schools, there's no, I mean, it's, having been on a planning commission for a number of years, I need more meat to vote on this. So if our planning commission wants to come up with some sort of ordinance that puts this in a certain location, a certain place, I'd be very interested in entertaining it. I can't say that I'd approve it, depending on what it said. But as written right now, we're prohibiting it in all zoning districts. The inverse of that would be that we'd be allowing it in all districts. That's not exactly what I believe that the intent here is, but at any rate, that's what I'm left with. So I can't approve it because there's no there's no protections for individuals who weren't in favor of this. And I understand that a majority of our population was 53%, but 54, whatever it was. But that also means that 45% or more were not in favor. And I may have my numbers wrong on the percentages, but it was at least a reasonable number that we need to look out for their concerns and find a balanced approach somewhere on some middle ground. And as written or not written, there isn't a balance here. So that's why I'll be voting yes. Thank you very much on that. And then I am also will say that I am very open to the medical marijuana approach. Every case and argument that I've heard from proponents of legalizing marijuana, when it got down to the root base of it, the one that I found the most compelling was the medical use of marijuana. So I'm very much in favor of looking at or directing our planning commission to look to see how we could incorporate that into our community as potentially a first step, if that's where this is to go with recreational use. But at a minimum, I think the medicinal properties, the medicinal opportunities are great, and I'd love to see some more discussion on that. So, thanks. That's all I got.
All right. Anybody else? None? Okay.
For what it's worth, I was at the Planning Commission meeting when they recommended denial, and what they said was, we need to study this and determine where it belongs, under what circumstances it belongs, and that would be their function. Mm-hmm. But for them to recommend a blanket denial in all zoning districts is why they said no. And we've already said no to the entire city outside of zoning. So what the Planning Commission did ask for was the right to study the issue, come up with all those things you just asked for. Mm-hmm. But they weren't willing to say blanket no to every district in town.
And the concern was, while they were discussing that,
but there
is an opportunity.
But there is no opportunity. We said no. We've already said no under police powers. No, under police powers in the act.
Yeah. Which, as we've been advised by our attorney, and numerous municipalities have advised that there could be a court challenge to that, and I'm not going to risk that. So until we've got something substantial in front of us, and the Planning Commission is welcome to do it. This doesn't say no Planning Commission, don't look at it. This says no, we're not going to approve it as written. So.
Right. That was the advice of our attorney after opting out with the first vote. This was the two-part thing, is to take it out, to also opt out as far as zoning is concerned. So I'm in favor of doing that, so I'm going to vote yes.
I think the vote's going to stay the same, 3-2.
I think so.
And I have to agree with Bob. We've already opted out, and I'm not in favor of the whole wording of all zones. And I think the Planning Commission had the right to say that they wanted to study it like they said they did. This is just a typical way politicians do business nowadays. We've had it happen to us from the state of Michigan. They say one thing and then they put a dollar value with something so that the people can't come back and have a voice in it, and I think the people need to have a voice. And I'm voting no on this.
And I'm not in favor of ever putting recreational marijuana sales in Grand Haven. Never.
Well, I think particularly since none of our, close neighbors are doing that, and if we would have one, then we are the mecca for everybody within miles around. And that's my second. The first major reason is I'm opposed to putting these establishments in our community. I'm particularly opposed to if there isn't anybody else around that's doing it, so that we are the only one. And so to safeguard our community, I'm supportive of this. We're ready to vote, I think.
Fritz?
No.
Manetza?
No.
Bruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
McHale?
Yes. And our last item,
Last item is to approve a final resolution to adopt the 2015 Michigan Plumbing Code. The administration recommends approval.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Support?
Second. Anything exciting we need to know about this? Any conflict?
Everything we voted on last
All
time
right.
to introduce this, we're gonna bring plumbing in-house.
All right.
Need to get the code adopted.
Hard to make this one controversial.
That's right. I just had a plumber at my house last week. I love my plumber. All right, I think we're ready to vote.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Do it.
Well,
No.
The game is
There you
going
go.
on,
I can't
so-
have
all right.
unanimous.
All right, report by city council. Who's got a report?
I can't read my notes.
Okay.
I'll go. All right, couple things. We've had a busy couple weeks. I think all of us were at the Capitol Conference. I went for both days. I had some interesting sessions we attended. I missed out on the dinner on Tuesday night, but on Wednesday I was able to get my certificate for my level 2 training for MML Elected Officials Academy. I've been working on that for 10 years now. Finally got that. The following Monday, I went with Pat and Aaron Terrell out to Greenville. Looked at the catwalk vents that are being fabricated. We're having reproduction catwalk vents made to replace all but 5 of the original for the catwalk, and those are supposed to be done, ready. I think they're all supposed to be done, ready to go back out on the pier early in May. Potentially being done in July, hopefully. It's going to take a couple months to get them all put back in. It's quite a bit of work to be done, but they all have to, the welding all looked good, all the pieces they were putting together looked good. They had to be coated, and then they had to get reinstalled on the pier, grouted in, and all the horizontal stringers put up. So that's another couple month process, but hopefully before Coast Guard, probably in July, that'll be done. We'll have our catwalk back. And Dan tells me, Dan's gone now, Dan tells me all of the lights have been refurbished, everything's ready to go back, so it should look great. And then we all went to, well, many of us went to Detroit following Wednesday to the Corps of Engineers open house. We got a chance to talk to a bunch of people there about concerns in town, one of them being the river dredging proposal. It sounds like there's a lot of skepticism with the Corps of Engineers about this one as well. And we talked about some of the other issues facing, dredging in general, some of the other projects around town that the Corps would be involved in. Also, I participated in the Science Olympiad Regional Tournament, which our teams did very well. They did us proud. They took first in both divisions, and our young kids from the White Pines group took 5th in the middle school division, so they beat out about 40 other teams of older kids. So they did a really good job. A while back, I talked to Pat about bringing back the idea of the two-way traffic on Columbus, farther to the east from where it is now. It stops at 5th Street now. I'm interested in seeing it go to 7th or to Beacon, and I asked Pat to take a look at that. I think he's been awfully busy with other stuff, so he hasn't done it yet. I think, as I recall, one of the concerns was the traffic, or the railroad light, crossing light at Columbus. and what that might cost to fix or change or move. And I'm not sure why that's our problem. I don't understand why. It's not our light, as far as I know, it belongs to the railroad. It's visible when there's no train there. When there is a train there, you can't get across anyway because there's a train there. So I'm not really sure why we're worried about that light, for that crossing light. But I think that we've had an excellent record of the 5 blocks we converted to two-way on Columbus. I'm not aware of any big problems, not aware of any major accidents other than some minor scares. I know I got on the wrong side of the road once and I quickly got back. But aside from that, I think it's worked out pretty well. So I think it's time to look at extending it the rest of the way, and I would hope that Pat could find some time to get back on that and tell us what the obstacles would be. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I brought this up numerous times as well, down here we were talking earlier about trees and about the value of our trees and preserving what we have in our urban forests. And just down the block here we have this gigantic majestic elm tree, which happens to be encroaching on a sidewalk. And there's been a plan in place for several months now to route the sidewalk around the base of that tree and get an encroachment on the private property owner there. I'd just like to see that done with minimal impact on the tree, because you just don't find elms like that much. I think that elm is very much worth preserving. Property owners are willing to work with us. I don't know if it's a matter of timing, mobilizing resources, getting a contractor on site, or what it is. But I think that I would like very much to see us move that sidewalk, save that tree, not cut up the roots, not do anything to potentially endanger it. It's truly a majestic specimen. And I think that really is a monument to Grand Haven. So that's all I've got.
All righty, thanks, Bob.
I'll go for it, go down the horn. I've deciphered my notes, at least I think some of them. I want to second Bob's request that Pat look into something as far as two-way on Columbus. I've heard the concerns about going all the way to Beacon, and I can see those concerns being very real. I think Denny brought some of them up, but I think for sure 7th Street makes perfect sense, and second exactly what Bob said about the railroad, although I do want to make sure you weren't saying you don't want to make sure there's a good railroad sign there, but there is one. And
there is one.
And it should be the railroad's responsibility by and large if the municipality wants to reroute a street. So I'll second that one. I think as far as the medical marijuana approach goes to, I'm looking for a second individual on council who is interested in directing Pat to look into that further, or get some information from some folks who are here tonight, and other opportunities that may exist for the medical use of marijuana and the sale, the provisioning centers, thank you, in the city of Grand Haven. The next one is, I got an email regarding flooding on Adams and 5th Street. Again, just as a great reminder for me that I know that it didn't make our top agenda items as far as the goals for the city manager, the city council to address, but I think there was still a general consensus that we wanted Pat and the crew to look into why exactly the street itself overflows onto private property. And just to reiterate, my contention is that, as a good neighbor, we should maintain the water that falls on the street, and it should wash away down our drains rather than onto people's private property. As long as we're doing that, then we've done our job, and I would hope that we could look into still doing something to that effect, or at least finding out what it might cost to do something to address that. The last thing is, a few weeks ago, I don't think I mentioned this at the last council meeting, but I had the opportunity to sit down at the Ottawa County Courthouse with one of the judges, some key stakeholders in the opioid epidemic. And we had a very productive meeting talking about different ways that we could address the epidemic in the city of Grand Haven. We're meeting again in another couple weeks. I can't remember the exact date on that, but I'll report back. I think there'll be a little more substance coming out of that. But the idea is the epidemic is real. There are people struggling in our community, and we can do something about it if we get the right people in the right place. And I'm optimistic that something's going to come out of that. At least it seems like the right people are sitting at the table right now. So I'm very pleased with that. Yeah, there you go. That's enough for me. Thanks.
All right.
Okay. I'm okay with going ahead and getting a cost, Pat, for Columbus Street, making it two-way. But I think we're going to find out that the railroad the railroad's gonna make us pay for what changes we make there, so, but I'm not opposed to looking into that, so maybe you, Pat, can get a handle on that and find out what's gonna cost us to get that, and I think that's gonna be the major cost right there is, that railroad crossing, so maybe you can get a hold of the railroad and find out, what exactly we have to do and what's gonna cost us to do that. I think that's about all I have. Oh, one other thing, I guess, the flooding on Adams Street. I think it is our responsibility to take care of the road part of the flooding. What the rainwater and the water that goes on our road, we need to take care of, and it don't need to go on private property. I agree with that. What we don't need to take care of is flooding because just because the water table is going up in that area. We don't need to do that. That shouldn't be our problem. But the road is our problem, and I agree. We need to take care of what goes on the road. We need to take care of that. So we need to probably get an engineering report and find out how we can take care of that road and see how we can alleviate that problem over there. Again, with just the road, just the road part.
I think we've had that discussion before on that road. I think we went down that route, told them that we just...
Down that road?
Yeah, we went down Adams Street, that road. But anyways, I have to agree, Josh. I talked to you at the MML, we were down in Lansing, about putting medical marijuana on a work session for us so we could do it. And we both did direct Mr. McGinnis that we would like to see that at a work session at some time so we can at least discuss it and start seeing moving forward before we make a recommendation to the Planning Commission. I think we should discuss it and see a little bit, get some more updates on it. And I think it'd be a good thing for us. So if you need anybody else, I'm willing to go that route because it coincides with the same thing you're working with when it goes for the opioids. There's been people that were on opioids and they've been weaned off them and they've been going to the medical marijuana, which has been helping them enormously. It's been getting them off in those things. It's just a way to go. So I'm willing to look forward and seeing exactly what route we should take. There's already been like Grand Rapids has already got theirs all set up. There's different places for us to do different areas and that. So there are rules and regulations with it. It's been in process for a few years now. The state finally has things put together. So like I said, Josh, I'm with you 100% on that to move forward. There's people in this town that are on it. They use medical marijuana, and without it, they can't walk. They can't do things, function. It's not the type where you're thinking marijuana that you're just going to use it to get high. It's not that. It actually takes over for the opioids, and they can actually function. Some people can't function without it. They have a hard time, and it's been much better than an opioid. So I think it's time for us to start really taking a good look at it now. And our roads, yeah, we take a look at our roads. We're like the governor says, we got to fix the damn roads. But we're getting a good shot at it. I've seen some of the patches they've been putting in, but it's that pothole season that we need to. If you guys see anything, we have that See-Click Fix. Please, if you see anything in town, go to that app, See-Click Fix. If you see something, take it and send it in to them. They rate it, they put it on there, and you can follow it all the way through and see if you get your results done. So, and also, I just want to report that the Tigers are doing very well. I had to say that. It's baseball season, and I'm a Tiger fan. And my brother would happen to be down there Saturday when that nice new young band they have there hit that grand slammer for him. He was just ecstatic, and now they're 7-3, so we're on a roll. Let's hope they keep it up. And I want to say thank you all for a great day today, making it very special for my birthday. But I just want to say one thing. On Thursday, our city manager will be having his birthday. So if I could, everybody that's left here, if they get one happy birthday song out of you, it would be most appreciative.
Probably some cake left out there.
And you can take some up for Thursday. I'll be glad to lead it along if you want. A 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Patrick. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Michael. But it's your birthday.
I know, but yours is Thursday and we won't be here, so we have to celebrate it for you too also, Pat.
Well, they save all paybacks.
So thank you.
All right, I have a couple things. I wouldn't, I'm interested in looking at Columbus, but I'm not really interested in looking at all the way to 31 because I think that presents huge complications and a high cost. And it's easy to say the railroad needs to take care of the stuff that's connected with the railroad. It's easy to say. That's a lot more difficult to get the railroad to do that, so that might be a pipe dream. So to me, Fifth Street is a natural cutoff. Possibly take it to 7th, but I think it depends on the costs and what does the railroad want to do about that crossing? So it's theirs, and they're not always right there to Johnny on the spot to help you fix your problem. Other things I've done, Friday, I met with Joy Gash and Dan Hibma of the Grand River dredging project. And Steve Moss, the mayor of Granville, they told us about their plans for this project, and we shared with them some of our concerns about that project. There is, so after all this time and all this talk, they finally came down to talk to the folks at the other end of the river, so which we thought that was kind of a nice thing to do. Tomorrow at Fillmore, there's a meeting of the Ottawa County Commissioners, at which they will be discussing this in their work session Monday afternoon. So I plan on going to that. So I think it's going to be at 3 o'clock. That's what it says on the schedule. They have the regular meeting, I think, at 1 or 1:30, and then their work session at 3. So if anybody else wants to go to that and see what conversation ensues, that's kind of the hot button topic. The one I've been getting a lot of emails on, a lot of information, and a lot of really good information from a lot of people, including our Parks Board, or not our Parks Board, but the Ottawa County Parks, and a lot of people that are very knowledgeable about the river and river life and what this dredging project could do and how it would change the river. And they're not positive results. There's a whole lot of negatives there. So we want to keep our eye on that. Oh, and speaking of that water in the basement thing, I got a very nice email from somebody, and it might have been the same one you got, Josh. I was going to respond to it. It's lost somewhere in my email, but because I kept having to bring water up from the basement. But what I was not aware of is whether it's just coming up because the water table is so high, or if it's actually coming in because of the street flooding. So if you're listening, sorry about losing your email. So I'm going to respond to you right here, as I would like.
Live on the radio.
Live on the radio, as we're concerned about your problem. If it's in the street, we can look, see what we can provide a solution to that. If it's just coming up because the water table is so high, that is something that we really can't do anything about. So I just wanted to respond to that. And I'm going to keep looking for that email because it's in there somewhere. But that water is, but I'm not sure I've ever seen the river quite as high as what it is now. So but it's a cyclical thing. And a few years, 5 years from now, we're going to go say, boy, the river's really down. So it comes up and it goes down. And with that, I'm going to give it to our city manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just very quickly, work session next Monday at 5:30 p.m. at the Community Center on the budget. All are welcome, public meeting, and we'll get through some meaty discussions on the budget. Hopefully you've all gotten your budget. If you haven't, please let me know, and I'll make sure you get that very quickly. the other things you guys addressed. Tomorrow night is a planning commission meeting. They've got some weighty items on the agenda once again. They'll be looking at Panera Bread site plan, I believe, and the site plan for a new restaurant on Beech Tree. So if you want to look at that packet, it's in the manager's conference room. You can stop by and take a look at the bigger plans. You should have all gotten an electronic copy late last week. Hopefully you got that. So that's all I have, Your Honor.
All right.
I just opened my emails and I see you sent a resolution for the dredging. We're gonna discuss that or not, or anybody on the dredging proposal?
It's perhaps a little more involved than we'd want to get into at one meeting. I sent you a draft resolution that really lists out a laundry list of all the concerns that we've heard. Tomorrow they'll talk about it at Fillmore, hopefully one or more of you. I know Jerry's planning on going. And perhaps at your next meeting, you'll want to take a position on what's being presented.
Okay, I just opened my email up and saw it. I just wanted to know. Thank you.
That's it? Okay, all right. Business.
Texas Tech.
No, Virginia. General business call of the audience. Anybody have a comment want to make at the end of the meeting? Step right up to the microphone, tell us who you are, where you live, and your comment.
My name is Dennis Sands, and my throat's kind of strained today, pardon me. I live in Norton Shores, 774 Norton Shores, and I used to be a Grand Haven resident. I came to Grand Haven in '73 on a yacht from Chicago that we were racing. But since that time period, I've been an avid sailor and boater all my life. We had our boats, catamarans, on the beach in Pere Marquette, and the high water had pushed us to the point where we're having problems at the shoreline. So I'm asking the city if, and I had approached Shar with this and talked to the Parks and Rec Department in a meeting last week, for the ability to use 4 or 5 spots down on the city beach area. My voice is all cracking up, I'm sorry. But for the proposal, I guess, is going to be talked to the mayor and to the city police chief, and I think is a harbor master also. So at that time, I'd like to be a part of that discussion, if it's open. The group of people that are asking for this are hardcore sailors. We're catamaran sailors. We've been racing for over 30 years, all of us individually. We like the big water. It's not the inland lakes that draw our sights to the water. I have an Olympic boat from the past years I keep, and we all maintain our boats in the area and the way they're anchored down to the sand. We maintain that very well, so it can withstand that 60, 80 mile-an-hour winds that we get on the shoreline. We take complete responsibility for the boats and the maintenance around that area. So when this does come up to discussion, I hope you consider that.
All right, we'll be looking for that. All right. Anyone else?
Amy Cooper. Thank you, Josh, Mike, for the recommendations for a work session. Definitely am interested in that. Not sure why there was a second vote on the recreational thing tonight. Not me personally, I'm not sure. But again, we aren't here to talk about recreational. We are here to talk about medical. And Michael is very right about the opiate issue that exists here, and those that have accessibility to medical marijuana usually see a 25% drop in opiate overdoses, and those are actual statistics. I do encourage each of you to, I would love to sit with each of you and just understand any concerns you have, so I can help, work through those, because I do believe that you can put a sensible zoning ordinance together that you will be pleased with, because you do have the ability to enforce it further than what the state does. And getting one of these licenses for medical marijuana is not an easy task. And so, but thank you again, and I look forward to continuing this conversation.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? If not, we'll adjourn until we see you again.
weekend.
That's right.